producer's booth. We are brought to you by, and our draft coverage by Redbox. They've got the newest movies fresh from the theater for just under $2 a night. Head to the box or stream on demand. Not only can you listen to us here on 950 KJR, you can also, in the palm of your hand, on that little app on your phone, on the iHeartRadio app, you can listen to us anywhere where you're at, on the move, on the go, running errands, enjoying a beautiful night out here in Seattle in the Pacific Northwest. And now you can watch us as well. We are streaming on our YouTube channel, on Twitter, Facebook Live, and on Twitch. We are damn sexy, and that's why we're on TV, right, Hugh? And you wore black to make yourself look slimmy. It's a veteran move, sir. The veteran move on your part.
Seeing as how I didn't know we were on this thing until about 19 seconds ago, I can't claim that part of it.
You're on 30 emails that went back and forth now.
I would say black might do you well. Since you brought it up.
You know, I just think that's unnecessary.
Well, you know.
I just said you wore black because it looks slimming. And
he's been the guy that's brought dinner the last 2 nights.
Yeah. Good point. Biting the hand that's feeding me.
And we'll address.
Well, he hasn't been biting the hand that's been feeding him, but.
Wow. We're 2 minutes in.
You know what? I give up my night of watching movies with my kids just to come in here and take the abuse from you. And I wouldn't want it any other way.
It's a tradition like no other.
Yes. All right. Here we go. Let's, of course, if you have been living on a rock, maybe you don't know what the Seahawks did with their lone draft pick here today. 56 overall. Wide receiver out of Western Michigan. Dwayne Eskridge. Come on down. Everybody knows Dwayne. Although your guy, Rob Rang, was all over. You guys had discussed him.
We had talked about him. We had talked about him as a guy that could be targeted by Seattle. So, Rob was on it. And, hey, I mean, the more you watch the guy, the more you kind of like the guy and get excited about the guy. Like I said, I don't hate the player. It's kind of like, Slick, your buddy Slick with the trade of Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
Like the player, don't really like the acquisition or
Gotcha.
I wanted more picks. I want more picks, but if this guy ends up being a home run, then you know what? Screw the rest of the picks and fill in the gaps with some undrafted free agents.
And speaking of Slick, when we go to commercial break and you're streaming us and you're watching us, you will continue to be able to watch the stream on YouTube and on Facebook Live, on Twitter, and on Twitch, because it will be Chuck and Slick taking over during the breaks. And so you know what? You'll never get away from the NFL draft.
Yes. Yeah. Just listen. So those guys are like drinking San Juan seltzers and just kind of hanging out?
Yeah, you're damn right. Yeah.
Good for them.
Well, I think Slick is drinking a San Juan seltzer. I think for Chuck, usually Friday, it's a martini night.
Oh.
So, and again, my experience with martinis, I mean, after his second one, and he's a slightly built fella.
Yes, he is.
It's over. I mean, he's going to be slurring.
Morning guys do things different. Man,
there's a lot of things not making sense. So you look at this guy, 5'8", 190 pounds, runs a 4.39 40. It was interesting. One of the first things you read on the draft profile is that he played both ways a couple of years ago. Now he primarily spent the time at cornerback, and then this last year played wide receiver. Put up some pretty good numbers, Hugh, in just the 6 games that they played.
Yeah, he really did. And I just think for Seattle to get an impact starter, and I view third receiver as a starter. A year ago, Seattle, 68% of their snaps, they had 3 or more receivers on the field. The Rams a year ago, because we're getting an offense coordinator out of their system, they were at 70% or more of their snaps were 3 wide receivers or more. So you can view him as a primary starter, right? The majority of the snap starter. And he's got the kind of juice that really can be electrifying, and he can give you a downfield threat. He can give you a short bubble screen type threat, fly sweep type threat. There's some polish in his routes that you're going to look to see him improve on, but there's a physicality. What I like about him, much different than Paul Richardson, he's thicker and he plays thick, meaning he's not afraid of contact. I mean, there's a lot of times where you'd see other guys would start to break down and maybe try and look to elude contact. He's ready to get scrappy and get nasty, whether it's with the football in his hand or going to fight for the football.
You know what? When we watch, we get caught up in the positions and the naming of them. And forgive me if you guys brought this up earlier. But I'm curious, when we watch maybe a Sean McVay, because obviously Shane Waldron's going to be coming from this offense. When we watch Sean McVay, is there a guy that Seahawks fans, they're driving around right now listening at home, can say, Okay, but who does he? I've watched the Rams the last few years, and of course we see him all the time. Is there a guy on that team? Maybe he does not exactly like this player, but in McVay's system, they use the guy like Seattle may use this guy.
Well, Tavon Austin was on the Rams a while back. It's interesting you asked that question, and that may be one of the reasons why Seattle drafted him. Here would be my theory. I can remember, for whatever reason, it's just sticking out in my mind. I studied the Ram game against the Dolphins, and because the Dolphins played a lot of one-on-one, and this was in advance of the Seahawks playing the Rams. So I wanted to get a picture of what their offense looked like in advance of the Seahawks defense playing them. And the Dolphins just happened to play a lot of cover one, a lot of blitz, a lot of pressure package, what have you. And so the Rams, it was kind of a gnarly game. They ended up winning, I think, but it didn't look good. And I remember just looking at the Rams receivers and going, man, there's nobody with any speed. And you think Robert Woods is a complete receiver, but I remember looking up his 40 time, and it was like around a 4.58, I think, and that was 7 or 8 years ago. And then you got Cooper Kupp, because as I'm looking at it, I'm saying these guys, there's not a guy who can break 4.6 on this freaking Ram receiving core. And Cooper Kupp was like a 4.61 at the combine. That was years ago. And I can't remember their third receiver. Maybe Ian has it or something. But my point was the Ram offense, to me, looked like they needed speed. And so the theory could be, if I'm at all right in that regard, now that might have been something where the new offensive coordinator comes in and says, look, I've lived this deal where we don't have enough speed, and I can tell you our offense will be even better if we can get one more cat with speed.
Let's hear from the newest member of the Seattle Seahawks, Dwayne Eskridge, wide receiver, Western Michigan, meeting with the Seahawks media.
She always just kept me up always. She know I was down because, all I want to do was play football. It's pretty easy to tell how much I love the game of football. So she always kept me up. Then my girlfriend, she was also a critical factor, just being able to talk to her, and her pick me up when I was down for sure during that injury. And my core family being my mom, my uncle, needs to do when it came to my routines of taking care of my body, watching film, everything. I always checked every single box this year. I just did everything that I needed to do. And then when it came into the field, it wasn't anything new. I practiced some of the plays that I had that were touchdowns this year that everybody thought was explosive and all that. I was doing that exact thing in practice. So it just translated right to the game. I kept it going the entire season.
Michael Sean.
Hey, Dwayne, congrats. If I'm reading this correctly, you know someone whose cousin is on the team already?
Yes, sir, Coach. Lito, he's with my Financial Rise team. His cousin is the position coach, I believe. So, I had some great conversations with them. It bonded well. And then, just going to keep I'm super excited about it, taking it out there.
Which coach? Which position coach?
The receivers.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dwayne, how the kickoff returning, it looked like you didn't start doing that until last year, but you had a lot of success doing it. Is that something that the Seahawks talked to you about?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I'm going, even if they didn't talk to me about a phase of special teams, I'm going in there making a name for myself, regardless.
Can you just what led you to suddenly doing kickoff returns last year? Looks like you didn't do them before last year.
Yeah, it was just other players. It was other greats that were there during my time, like Darius Phillips that plays for the Bengals. You know, he was a great returner. And then my senior year, I was playing both ways, so they kind of wanted to take some of the stress off of me. So they had Levante Bellamy. He's with the Broncos. You know, so we had some greats back there. So they was just trying to preserve me a little bit more so that I could stay healthy during the season and not do too much because I was doing special teams as well, other special teams.
Greg Bell.
Hello, sir. Congratulations. Are you talking from Bluffton right now?
No, sir. I'm in Battle Creek, Michigan.
Okay, thank you. College. How much did you play in the slot at Western?
It was probably I played about 85% into the boundary this year, but the rest of that 15% I probably moved around from the slot to the field slot. You know, I was pretty interchangeable this year.
You said 85% into the boundary or in the slot? I'm sorry.
Into the boundary. I was the
Okay.
extra. Yep.
Okay. And have the Seahawks, when they briefly talk either tonight or before, mentioned what role they might like you specifically? They got a new offense going in.
Yeah, so I just pretty much learned all three positions. You know, that's how I learned concepts anyway, to be able to move faster within the offense. So we didn't really talk specifically about a position. You know, we just talked about would I be able to retain everything to be able to play all three positions.
And then you moved, at how old were you when you moved from Mississippi to Indiana?
I was young. I was in kindergarten. I did an extra year of kindergarten. So somewhere around the lines of whatever age that is.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Brady.
Hey, Dwayne, Brady Henderson from ESPN. Congratulations and nice talking with you. Excuse me. Can you tell us what was it like playing both ways for as many years as you did, and what led to starting to play wide receiver?
Yeah, it was a great experience. You know, I know it was a select few that played that position in all of college football, you know, all time. You know, it wasn't too many greats that just did it, you know. So I was walking in trying to make a name for myself on the wide receiver side and the DB side, you know. So it worked out well for me. I put in a lot of hard work to be able to get results. And then my senior year, you know, I came back. You know, I had a conversation with our head man, you know, and it was only right for me to go back to wide receiver. You know, the way that I had progressed and learned so much from corner.
Thanks.
Go, Payne.
Hey, congratulations. Just curious if maybe you can kind of paint a picture of what you're doing today, what your expectation was for when you might go, when you got the call. Just it is, you know, I know it's a cool moment for you in your life. I'm just maybe curious of, you know, if you were anticipating, hey, Seahawks are coming at 56. This might be my time. What are those emotions and how did it all go down for you?
Yeah, definitely. As soon as I saw 56, you know, when I saw the Seahawks, as soon as I saw the Seahawks, you know, I instantly knew. You know, it was some type of energy that came over me, you know, and then once I saw the Washington number call me, you know, I instantly stood up. You know, I was so joyful, you know, and now it's time to get to work.
Art.
Dwayne, what did you learn playing cornerback that's helped inform you about playing wide receiver?
Could you say that one more time for me?
What did you learn at playing cornerback that helps inform you as a wide receiver?
It just really slowed the game overall for me. You know, whenever I'm going against a DB, I always think to myself, what could make me uncomfortable if I was going against a corner, if I was going against a receiver of my stature. You know, I always put myself in that example. And then, you know, just thinking of different things that would make me uncomfortable if I was playing corner. You know, that helped me a lot going to the offensive side again in 2020.
You are listening to Dwayne Eskridge, the Seahawks wide receiver taken here in the second round, 56 overall at Western Michigan. More with the Seahawks draft pick of the Seattle Media.
Calf and Tyler Lockett. Is that, you know, added pressure to see how impactful they were into the team, or does it feel good to just have a couple of guys perhaps that you could follow and kind of grow with?
Yeah, so I'm definitely not coming in with any type of pressure on myself. You know, it's amazing that I made it to this point. You know, I think I remember until like second grade of me dreaming about going to the NFL and just my perspective changing over the years. So me just being able to get my jersey is what it's all about, you know, because I take opportunities, you know, very heavily. You know, I don't never unused opportunity, you know, to my benefit. You know, so I'm going in to be able to learn from them and then add on to, you know, the leadership that they have in that room. You know, and just take it to another level.
Tim Booth.
Hi, Dwayne. Congratulations. How important do you think in this entire process was the performance you had the week of practices at the Senior Bowl? And when you got there, did you feel like there was anything you had to show to prove that even though you went to a smaller conference school that you were worthy of being considered this high?
Yeah, so throughout this process, you know, I didn't really put too much pressure on myself. I just kind of did what I do best. You know, I always knew that I was one of the top tier guys. You know, it was just certain times where I didn't get as many opportunities as the guys at the bigger schools and stuff like that. You know, so I just, you know, I face things head on. You know, I don't run from anything. So as soon as anybody lines up against me, you know, I'm automatically thinking I can win. I'm not thinking about anything else. You know, and I just went down there to show who the real DS was, since I hadn't always had a camera on me.
Jackie.
Hey, Dwayne, congratulations and welcome to Seattle. How would you describe your playing style?
I would say definitely aggressive, explosive, and dynamic. You know, I can do multiple things on the offense and defensive side, and I can also go and perform well on the special team. So I just bring a whole nother juice.
And then what do you know about the city of Seattle and the 12s here?
I know nothing. I cannot wait to learn about it. I cannot wait to learn more about it.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Ian Furness.
Dwayne, sorry, we a little late coming in on this, but you may have answered it. Can you describe what was about Seattle that made it special? You tweeted out that you wanted to come here. What was that whole process like? And was it talking to John, Pete, et cetera? And why the tweet to your friend? What made Seattle the place you wanted to be?
Yeah, so I just felt comfortable being in a good football position with them, you know, more than anybody else that I talked to. You know, they all kept it real with me. You know, it was clear, uncut all the time. You know, I just felt when it came to energies colliding, you know, I felt like I was molded well instead of going the other way, you know, so I always looked at them as a little bit different than anybody else, you know, and I appreciated them for that.
Art.
From what you know about DK Metcalf, who wins the 40-yard dash between the two of you?
He like a semi, you know. He moving a whole lot of velocity, you know. So I'm definitely gonna win that race. So I'm not gonna say he's gonna beat me in a race, but you know we gonna take it there wherever it goes.
There he is, Dwayne Eskridge, the newest member of your Seattle Seahawks out of Western Michigan, 5 foot 890 pounds, taking 56 overall. You can follow him on Twitter. And he seems to be a very entertaining guy at All Around Plays. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll get more thoughts from Hugh, more thoughts from Ian, maybe bring in Curtis as well. But don't worry, there's more draft coverage coming right here on the live video stream with Chuck Powell and Matt Nicholas. Our draft coverage continues next right here on 9.
Hello and welcome to the San Juan Seltzer Virtual Sports Bar here in Tacoma and also in Kirkland as well, as we're going to be bringing in Chuck Powell. But we're going to be here as when they go to break, we are right here along with you. And if you've been here before, you know exactly what this is. This is the most interactive time for you, the fan, the viewer, the listener. Just like Jeremy Boom, coming right out of the gate with straight fire. And you can do that. Leave a comment, hang out with us during the breaks so you don't have to miss 1 second. Not 1 second will you go without some sort of draft coverage. So great news there. Jeremy, first, before I get to Jeremy's comment, Dwayne Eskridge is the pick. Wide receiver out of Western Michigan. He's 5'9". He's a speed guy, 190 pounds, a bit slight. This is exactly the kind of pick I wanted them to make. When we bring Chuck in here, we'll talk about because he and I both, and there he is. There's Chuck Powell. Chuck, Dwayne Eskridge, wide receiver, Western Michigan, 5'9", 190 pounds, a slot wide receiver, somebody who's speedy, can get separation, and I think most importantly, catch the ball and go. You and I both during Draftmas had talked about the possibility of the Seahawks taking somebody at this wide receiver spot with their second round pick. It's what we wanted. We got what we wanted for Draftmas.
Actually, we did. Now, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
You sound great.
Very good. I was thinking about you when the pick came down. We were both kind of on the same page with that. I just love this idea. I think it's just modern day offense. I think it's where it's going. If you're not looking at what Andy Reid's doing in Kansas City, then I think you're asleep at the wheel. And I think the Rams and Sean McVay have been doing this as well with as many jet sweeps as they run with their wide receivers, and how much their wide receivers are such a big part of their running game as well. And so to bring Shane Waldron over, I think you needed something different, something dynamic at the slot receiver position. And I wanted Rondale Moore, as you know. That was my first choice, the Purdue wide receiver, 5'7", but stronger than what Dwayne Eskridge is, more powerful, and obviously a little more proven, having come from a Power 5 conference. But I've not seen this guy play, Slick.
Right.
But I've also never been on a dating site. And I'm pretty sure what you do on dating sites is you kind of look at the person and you read about the person and you try to figure out if they're a match. And then you, swipe left or right? Which one do you do?
Well, if you like her, you swipe right. If you don't, you swipe left.
So if I'm on slot receiver Tinder and I see Dwayne Eskridge, I'm swiping right. This is the guy. And then you see the highlights and you're mesmerized. This is the guy that I think fits exactly what you and I want to see out of that position. So is he a slam dunk? We have no idea.
Of course.
He was a very late arriver to the sport of football, okay? And he's been a very late bloomer physically. But he's found the weight room. He's not some scrawny little dude. And the dynamic aspect that he's going to bring, the home run hitting ability that he's going to bring to the table, I love it. I really do. I'm trying to convince myself I don't love it, but I think I love it.
I love it from two different aspects of what I want from the Seahawks offense, because they've got to figure out, they've got to get back to moving the chains. And when they get in 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 8, Russell Wilson needs somebody. We know about the great deep ball that he throws and the great skills of Tyler Lockett and of DK Metcalf down the field. But what they don't do on 3rd down, they don't have somebody who just bursts off the line, gets open, gets some quick separation, and moves the chains. They haven't had that. I think they can find that in this guy. Secondly, the thing I'm most excited about, what I think there is going to come over from the Shane Waldron offense, so many plays, so many passing plays with the Seahawks, just them going, turning around, catching the ball, and getting tackled. What I really want to see is them getting their guy the ball moving, either moving laterally or moving down the field, and Eskridge should excel at both of those. I mean, just watching the highlight film, he can turn a bubble or tunnel screen into a big play. There are lots of slants off of RPOs, which, that seems to be the norm here in the NFL, is that play. And he turns it into a 20-yard gain. So I think those are the kind of plays, as we have our last 2 minutes here, those are the kind of plays that are really going to help Russell Wilson in this offense sustain drives and equal to, solving the biggest problem I think we all think with the Seahawks, which is putting points on the board consistently.
Yeah, look, Russell Wilson's greatest attribute is his accuracy as a thrower. He's the best deep ball, most accurate thrower in the sport. But, man, you're asking too much for him to just throw a dime on every play, and those are the only ones that result in explosive plays. Look, a lot of people wanted an offensive lineman, wanted pass protection here. I think a guy like this helps Russell Wilson's pass protection a lot more, because imagine him getting some explosive plays, Slickhawk, where he only has to drop back 3 steps, dump the ball off to Eskridge, and you get a 15, 20-yard gain out of it, and he only threw the ball 15 inches.
Mm-hmm.
That element needs to be in this offense going forward. It needs to be in every modern-day offense going forward. And I think this guy, absolutely fits the bill there.
And for people who say, oh, Russell Wilson's too short, he can't do that, I would encourage you to go back and look at the second half of the season of 2015 when Russell Wilson was dropping back, 3-step drop, planting his foot and throwing the football, getting rid of it across the middle of the field, slant routes to Doug Baldwin, things like that. It was the most efficient stretch Russell Wilson's ever had. 25 touchdowns, 2 interceptions the second half of 2015. It's the kind of football that Russell Wilson could play. And you talk about that, by the way, what you just mentioned. I think maybe one of the most intriguing things about Dwayne Eskridge is the fact that a 142.1 passer rating when he's in single coverage, third best in college football. So for the role that it looks like they're going to want him in, you need somebody who you can put the ball in his hands. You know he's going to catch it. You know he's going to do something with. A lot more on this. You saw the comment. We'll bring the comment back next segment. I want your comments. So text in your comments right here in the comment section. Meanwhile, we get back to Sports Radio 950 KJR and the guys Jason Puckett, Hugh Millen. I think Ian Furness is there as well.
Now back to our 12th man NFL draft coverage, powered by Lakeland Village Golf Course, by Fairway Mortgage of Auburn, by Hendrikus Organics, by Farm Fresh Northwest, by Redbox, by Chambers Bay Bourbon, and by San Juan Seltzer, on your home for the NFL Draft. Seattle Sports Radio 950, KJR.
And welcome back to our coverage here of the NFL Draft. Jason Puckett, Hugh Millen, Ian Furness, Curtis Crabtree is here as well. So is Kevin Shockey. And on the video stream, which we are on as well. Hello to everyone out there. I know we're good looking. No makeup, unless I think Furness is wearing makeup. No makeup for us, because we don't need it. You can watch, if you're just listening, you can also watch us on YouTube, Twitter, Periscope.
We do have a request on the stream. Hugh, they're annoyed that they can't see your beautiful face. So if you can move the mic to your right, they want to see your beautiful face, Hugh. Come on.
Hugh. Do it for the people.
If there ever was a beautiful face, it sure ain't.
Good looking.
Oh, look at him. He's gorgeous.
Are you guys on Twitch? Are you on Twitch?
We're on the Twitch. We're twitching. We're twitching. We're going to do a TikTok later.
Okay.
And then when we go
Seahawks fans are twitching, watching video of this guy right now.
If you're looking for a beautiful face, boy, you turn into the wrong Twitch.
Twitching.
When we go to break.
Motley Crue. Are you kidding me?
Well, I'm good looking.
Well,
how about you?
Yeah, good's relative.
Fair point. So when we go to break, you can watch Nicholas and Chuck. And they are, when we go to break, they are doing their live video stream on all of our platforms as well. All right, so when we, in our coverage of this great draft coverage brought to you by a number of partners, including Lakeland Village Golf Course, April Tee Times, specials going on right now. You can see where Ian's ball is in the water.
No, first hole, condo on the right.
Condo on the right.
Go up to the deck. You'll find one up there.
Give them a call, 360-275. 6100. I feel, listen, you're going to live on the golf course, you're going to have to take the pain of getting hit with a...
It's funny, I told the guy exactly that.
Well, so what? You know what? Don't yell at the golfer here.
Yeah.
Hugh and we got cut off there to hear from Dwayne Eskridge. We were talking about, with McVay's run offense with the Rams, did they have a guy like this that they implemented in their offense?
Yeah, no, they really didn't. And they just brought on Deshaun Jackson. So I think that they probably recognized that they had a speed issue. But, you think of like the fastest receivers in the league, the Tyreek Hills would come to mind, Henry Ruggs, Marquise Goodwin, to some extent John Ross, although I think he plays a lot different than John Ross. So in your mind's eye, I wouldn't think of him. I would think more of a Tyreek Hill, or a Tavon Austin type of guy, if you can remember him.
Sure.
I think stylistically, that's the guy I think of. But I think the most telling quote that he had in that interview, to me, was when he was asked, describe your style. And he used 3 adjectives. He said explosive. He said dynamic, but that was number 2 and number 3. The first thing out of his mouth was aggressive. And that's what I see on the tape, the limited tape that I've been watching here while I can. There is an aggression to him. He played cornerback. There's a no-fear aspect to his game where give me the ball and let's go. And a lot of fast guys they don't like to get dirty. They don't like to mix it up. And you see times where they break down when they are expecting contact. Here they got this head of speed going. This guy took a reverse, and there was a lot of converging guys. He didn't flinch. He just put on a move at full speed, didn't break down at all. And I saw that in his kickoff return. He had one kickoff return for a touchdown. There's a certain aggression to his style. And going to attack the football on a post route that was kind of underthrown, pulled sideways. It was actually a smart play by the quarterback. If the receiver's going to outrun his arm, then just flatten him and keep him on the run. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Think of a post route. And if I'm throwing a post route to John Ross and
now,
I get back,
you ask me, do I understand? Then you turn away to look at Ian.
Well, I'm
like
trying to. I'm.
You know, and I mean, he doesn't understand.
Well, you ain't gonna understand, so I want to make sure Ian understands.
I gotcha.
You're a lost cause. So
I was actually looking. I was looking at running back or wide receiver rushing attempts by the Rams the last 3 years, but I'll get to that in a second.
Okay, and that's good to know. But what you say is like, look, if he's, let's say he's just aiming right towards the post, okay, as the name implies. If you can't throw it that far, then flatten him. Like, let's say he's going right to left in your vision, and you can't keep him going up the field, then you pull him over a little bit more to the left if he's going to outrun your arm. So that happened to him. And now, in this case, it happened to be left to right, but it's the same. The topic's all the same. So the quarterback flattened him. He made a great adjustment in the air to realize what was happening, but now there were some other defenders being brought in, and he just, like I said, no fear. It's like, that's my effing ball. And I see a lot of fast dudes that don't have that scrappiness. Like, it takes a lot to get them to dive for the football. Like, they don't want to get their elbows dirty. So a lot of times you go, dude, you could have caught that. Why did you not leave your feet? You know, why did you not go mix it up and accept contact on that play? You know, are you trying to play just, 7-on-7 ball here and no reason to have your mouth guard? Like, what kind of football mentality do you have? And I'm seeing the toughness. And when he says aggressiveness is what you're getting from me, and that's the first thing out of his mouth, I think it's well said.
Must be a trait Seattle likes, though, because, I think one of the most underrated parts of Tyler Lockett's game is just that. Tyler Lockett wins battles for the ball. Like, his ball skills and his one-on-one, like, go get it for a guy that's his size, right? And not even thick, like, just for his size. Tyler Lockett wins a lot of those battles. I think with him, just listening on that whole Zoom call, there is, you always talk about it, Hugh. I mean, it goes back to the days when we were all doing shows together, and you came in and you told Puck and I, you want certain guys in your team to have the big rims and the fur coats and just be as flashy and cocky and confident as you can be. This dude has that.
Yeah.
Like, this guy has, and he's from the MAC. Like, he doesn't come in with a pedigree from the SEC.
Sure.
He's from the MAC, and he took over that press conference, and we've done, well, literally now hundreds of these things with these guys since 2010, right? The three of us on a Friday night or Thursday night. This guy has a different level of, he's got that Bruce Irvin kind of Frank Clark, like, look at me.
Yeah.
And I like that because I want that for that.
And just to clarify that,
came across very confident.
Is that now, obviously I'm not suggesting there's any causal relationship. What I'm suggesting is there is a strong correlation. And I mean this literally right now. If you show me a dude who drives a Honda Civic with 15-inch stock wheels, he is far less likely, if you're just going correlation, he is far less likely to be a freaking playmaker than a dude who shows up with a mustard suit on the airplane and he's got the rims and it just is. Yep. It just is. Now, sociologists, you can debate all the whys and the hows and is there a causal relationship, causal fallacies. I'm just saying correlation. And I'm saying it's north of 80, 85, 90%. That you see that type of bravado, those are the cats that freaking make the plays on Sunday.
Can we go back to the offense for a second? Because I was curious about this, and to use a Hugh Millen term, in my mind's eye, I'm looking and thinking about what the Rams would like to do, but they weren't able to do it a lot. Woods is the only guy over the last 3 years that seems to be any type of threat running the ball from the receiver position. I'm guessing a lot of those are sweeps and stuff, right, Hugh?
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. He had anywhere between 17 and 24 each of the last 3 years. So say on average about 18, 19 of those. Do you see this guy as someone they're going to put in motion? They're going to use him for that a lot more. Yeah. But what does that do for the other two guys?
And who was the Oregon State guy? Why is that?
It's Mike Riley. Well, it was
Cooks.
It was
Cooks. Brandon Cooks. Yeah. So they had him for a while trying to fill that. But yes,
I looked back and Cooks didn't have as many because I thought that, Puck. I was thinking Cooks would have some. He didn't have as many. But the Mike Riley, who were the two brothers? The Rogers brothers, right?
Rogers brothers. Yeah.
The older one always was like more so than Jock Woods, right?
So. Yeah, and you saw him on some reverses, and absolutely you would expect him to be a guy that stretches the field laterally, and that helps your running game, that helps your passing game. Just the defense having to match that motion, and you got the fly sweep, and you got the fake fly, and there's so many coaches that like the package of what you have off of the fly sweep even more than the fly sweep. So you only give it to the guy one every 20 times, 15 times, whatever. And maybe if this guy can produce, you give it to him one out of every 8 or 10 or something. But just the defense having to space themselves out to defend it can leave things open, as I said, in your running game, and you get the stretch that you – like, for example, let's just take a common concept, generic to all offenses, flood. Flood is a term, if you say, what's a flood pass concept? It's an outbreaking route. It's a 3-layered outbreaking route. So we can line up in trips. The guy closest to the sideline runs a go route. Then one of the next two guys on the inside, let's just say the next guy runs what's called a sail route. Like it's a 15-yard corner route, but it kind of flattens. Common term is called a sail. So he would be the intermediate layer. And then the next guy in runs to the flat. Okay, that's just a simple description of a flood concept. And so you're flooding, you got deep, intermediate, short, near the sideline. So if a defense is layered in 2 layers, the shallow layer and the deep layer, you got 3 guys vertically on 2 layers, okay? So now what you can do is instead of being in a 3-by-1 to run flood, you can be in a 2 formation to the right side of the field. Your widest guy still runs the clear out. The slot guy runs, let's just use it. Let's say DK Metcalf is lined up next to Pete Carroll. He's going to run the takeoff. Let's say Tyler's going to be in the slot. He's going to run the sail at 15 yards. Now, on the left side of the formation, opposite, you run this cat in motion, and you fake the fly. The defense has to honor the fly, and maybe a couple times ago you faked that fly and you gave the ball to Chris Carson on the inside zone. And you stretched them out. Now you want to run the flood. Guess what? You still got the same components of the flood. You still got a Tyler on the sail, and now with this kid on the fly, he's now the guy in the flat. So he takes the place of the flat route that you had. All you did is just you faked the fly sweep before. So you can build in, that's just one example. I could describe 50 or draw 50 for you where you're still sound in terms of your past concepts in the process of faking the fly sweep. He then becomes, after he fakes the fly sweep, Russell fakes it like he's going to give it to him. Now Russell takes 3 steps back to make play action. Now he carries out his fly sweep, and he becomes a swing route in the flat, and it's just like any other flat control.
But to do that, you have to have a guy that they respect will actually run the fly sweep, not, David Moore or whatever, right? Like what makes that work is the guy has the juice to do all those things.
The better he is with the football in his hand, the faster, the more dynamic he is, and he can make guys miss in space, the more defensive coordinators hold their breath.
Okay. We'll be back with more. Again, the Seahawks with their first pick in the second round. Well, their only pick. 56 overall, if you're just joining us. Dwayne Eskridge, wide receiver out of Western Michigan. 5'8", 190, and 4.39 40. He was one of only 4 FBS players to average 130 plus yards per game. All right, we'll continue after the break. Don't go anywhere because we're on TV. Our pretty faces are going to be replaced by the pretty faces of one Slickhawk who is hammered.
hammered. He is dancing like an absolute fiend right now. He looks terrific.
Chuck's got the beanie on. He's been sipping on a cocktail. They are going to take you to the commercial break on YouTube, live on Facebook Live, on Twitch. So watch it there. They're going to break down the draft there as well. We'll be back right after this.
All right.
Where'd the fun music go?
I don't, I'm a little out of breath. Boy, those are Draftman's carols to us here.
Oh, by the way, here we go.
Yes.
Here we go. We got the,
Oh, you got your Draftman stocking.
yeah, I got the stocking. See on
With
it.
the stocking stuffers. Tom, I'm glad you asked. I'm drinking some all-natural Huckleberry San Juan Seltzer. Why? Because I'm in the San Juan Seltzer virtual sports bar
Very
with you
nice.
guys. Yeah, this is what we do. So,
See us for draft capital.
well, they don't have a lot. That's maybe a bigger C than they deserve this year.
Yeah,
So,
that's why it's empty.
Chuck, what am I? And now here, I promised Jeremy we get to his text here. So, trash 5'9", 109. This sounds like me when Tyler Lockett was drafted. By the way.
Well, I mean, look, I heard Ian and Hugh obviously talking about, okay, so this Rams offense, and they run this jet sweep. This is going to be a big part of what the Seahawks do going forward. And the numbers were that Woods is really the only one that gets the carries. Well, Woods isn't exactly a jet sweep guy.
No.
I mean, Woods isn't elite speed.
Right.
Woods is just talented with the ball in his hands. Kupp is just talented with the ball in his hands. But they're not athletes like this guy. So Hugh pointed it out last night a lot in the coverage. The Tyreek Hill agent has created a shift in the National Football League. Andy Reid's offense has created a shift. You want to get the hands and the balls of some play creators. And so you're throwing up there that you're scared of 5'9", 190. The Eagles just spent the 10th overall pick on a guy who's 6 foot 160.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Rams on the pick after just took a guy that weighs 155 pounds and Tutu Atwell from Louisville.
Right.
So the Rams, who run this offense that Waldron is coming from, are recognizing we were good with Woods in the slot running this jet sweep. How much better can we be if we actually get the ball to somebody in space who has running ability, speed, quickness? What then can we do? And that's what Eskridge is going to bring to the table. I think that you're looking at it the wrong way if you're looking at height and weight. I mean, everybody seems to think you've got to be some gladiator-sized person to succeed in the National Football League. Chad Johnson weighed 9 pounds and was a Pro Bowler
100%.
every year. 9 pounds.
They've got their gladiator-sized wide receiver. They've got, you got to think about what the Seahawks have. They have one of the best wide receiver duos in the National Football League. This is a specialized thing. This is like when they brought in Percy Harvin kind of thing. Now, different skill set a little bit, and Percy Harvin was more of a running back playing the wide receiver spot, and this is more of a, I don't know. I'm not going to say Tyreek Hill. I like the comparison to kind of Tavon Austin, but this is a guy that, jet sweeps, absolutely. And you look at what's happening in your division. I mean, everybody else is already ahead of you in this game, especially San Francisco. They got 2 guys that they'll do with this, but so I think that this is where the NFL is right now, and they have the luxury of being able to go out and get this extra special thing, this extra piece, because of the 2 guys that they have on the outside.
Yeah, he's not Deebo Samuel. I mean, he's not built that way, but you're absolutely right. The 49ers are playing this. They've incorporated this into their offense. The Rams have incorporated it into their offense. We've taken the Rams, passing coordinator. We're going to incorporate this into our offense. We need this piece. Now, I'm not here to tell you Dwayne Eskridge is a good football player. I've seen highlights. I've read write-ups on him. I'm saying you and I were right when we said this, to me, is our number one priority in the draft. This is the kind of player that we should be after. It's the kind of player we need for this offense that helps Russell Wilson create some big plays downfield without having to thread the needle. And so John and Pete obviously felt the same way. That's the guy we got. I'm excited.
Brian heard the press conference, and definitely a confident guy. It's interesting just because what I came away from with Mac Jones to the Patriots was, boy, does he look the part walking up to the podium and answering the questions. the linebacker that the Cardinals selected yesterday. What I took away from the video that's circulating online wasn't that, he was crying and it was an emotional moment. It was how confident he is in himself and the attitude that he's bringing. He wants to kill everybody, which I don't necessarily like for a linebacker in our own division. So that confidence and that aggressive mentality is something that I think we're going to like out of Eskridge. Of course, we're going to like out of Eskridge that he has that, and I think it could translate into into good things for him as well. So,
and go ahead. You got a break?
No.
I would just say, I mean, this guy is somebody that was flying up the draft boards. Okay, so this was an odd year, right? I mean, John Schneider didn't even want to draft this year. And so the late eyeballs on him, that there's a physical maturity that has taken place since he last played football. So this is a late bloomer physically. This is a late arriver to the sport of football. And there are people thinking that he is just scratching the surface. So I think, Rondale Moore was my first choice. This was my second choice. I really like this pick. I really love the philosophy behind this pick. And so we'll see. I mean, I can't tell you if he's a good football player, but I love the pick.
More of your comments later, but now more Puck, more Ian Furness, and more Hugh Breedlove Millen.
Now back to our 12th Man NFL draft coverage, powered by Lakeland Village Golf Course, by Fairway Mortgage of Auburn, by Hendrikus Organics, by Farm Fresh Northwest, by Redbox, by Chambers Bay Bourbon, and by San Juan Seltzer, on your home for the NFL Draft. Seattle Sports Radio 950, KJR.
We are back. NFL coverage of the draft taking place tonight. Jason Puckett, Hugh Millen, Ian Furness, Curtis Crabtree, Kevin Shockey is here, Slickhawk, and Chuck Powell. They are on your video screen, taking all your questions, answering everything on our live video stream. Hello, video stream. How about that water bottle right there, huh? That's not water, vodka. You can watch us YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Twitter, and Twitch there as well. And our coverage brought to you by San Juan Seltzer. Find your island side. Okay, now the draft is still going on, and we haven't updated on what's been happening here lately. Guard out of Ohio State, Wyatt Davis, has been taken with the 86th overall pick by the Minnesota Vikings. Amari Rodgers has been taken, a wide receiver from Clemson, 85th overall to Green Bay Packers. He got him. Aaron Rodgers finally got his wide receiver in the third round, and his name's Amari Rodgers.
It's his brother.
Yeah, maybe. Chauncey Golston, Iowa defensive end, goes 84 to the Dallas Cowboys. Tommy Tremble out of Notre Dame, tight end, goes to the Carolina Panthers there at 83. All right, we've been talking a lot about Dwayne Eskridge. Of course, Seahawks making just one pick today. Coming up tomorrow on the final day of the NFL draft, they'll just have the two more picks coming their way. One in the fourth round, 129th overall, and in the round 7, 250th overall. All right, when you guys were describing Eskridge, we brought up a few names, and Hugh, you talked a little bit about Tyreek Hill and kind of mentioned him. More and more that you and Ian, you were talking and staring and gazing into each other's eyes, and I felt like I was on the outside. I kept thinking of Percy Harvin.
Oh, yeah. Lord have mercy.
Is there some Percy Harvin in Dwayne Eskridge?
Yeah, that's a fair question. Percy Harvin was a guy that that coming out of Florida, the Urban Meyer thought in their spread was that they liked him as the number 3 guy in trips. They had him as a slot guy, and he wasn't developed as an outside route tree. You heard Eskridge in his press conference say that 3/4 of the time, 70% of the time he was into the boundary. Mm-hmm. That means he was the X receiver. He was an outside receiver, and X means that he's tethered to the line of scrimmage. So he's on the into the closed side of the field, the closest side of the field, and in a trips formation with 3 receivers to the other side, you have to be on the line of scrimmage to make it a legal formation, which means you're subject to getting battered around at the line of scrimmage by corners. You have to have a good release technique. I'm seeing ability from him to run routes well because he can hammer his feet. It's really exactly what Pete Carroll said about DK Metcalf.
More so than where Harvin was at coming out.
Yes. Yes, he has had to play more in a variety of positions. Now, I'm not seeing a whole lot of other routes other than slants, comebacks, and go routes. Okay, maybe a post here or there. So he has not shown the complete route tree, but similar to what everybody detracted from Metcalf, they say, oh, he can't run a route tree. Well, there's a difference between we haven't seen you run a route tree and you cannot. And I should preface it by saying, even if you can't run a complete route tree, and by the way, what a route tree means is this, because maybe you've heard that. Just like the analogy implies, or the what do you call it? Symbolism, whatever it is, the metaphor. The tree metaphor is that your stem, when you come off the line of scrimmage, is a vertical stem. So you're running perpendicular line of scrimmage. You run a vertical stem, and the route are often numbered. And everybody calls a corner route, for example, a 7 cut. A post route is an 8. Generally, in most offenses, the even numbers are inside breaking routes. The odd numbers are outside breaking routes. So as you're coming off a stem, think of a tree. That's like the trunk of the tree. If you break in at the slant, we're going short to deep now. You break inside on a slant, that's a 2 route. You break a 5-yard speed out or a 5-yard out route, that would be a 1 route. Okay, a shallow cross is a 0, even number. A 4 route would be either a curl or an in-breaking route, a dig. Some people call that a dig. A 5 is generally a comeback, where you're starting to go. Could be at 12 yards, could be at 17 or 18 yards, but a 5 is generally a comeback. The 3 route, I jumped over the 3. The 3 is the 12-yard speed out. The 9 route is the go. So you'll hear that is ubiquitous football language. The 9 is the go. The 7 is the corner route. So do I see the entire route tree? The tree that I'm talking about? No, I see a 2, which is a slant. I see a 9, which is a go. I saw a couple of 8s. I didn't see a 7. And I saw a 5. Okay, and a 5, the comeback, a lot of the technique is the same as a hitch, which some people, there's more than 10 routes, so some routes stack on top of each other on the numbered system. For example, a 2 could be a slant, but it could also be a angle cross, a deep crossing route. You say, well, they're both 2s. Well, they're both in-breaking routes, and they're both kind of diagonally gaining ground, but we have more than 10 routes. So if we're going to be in a digit system, you just have to know that there might be 3 or 4 different 2 routes, like a whip route where you start the slant or start the shallow cross, snap back out. That could be a 2. So the route tree is such. I didn't see from Eskridge a complete route tree, but I see speed, I see acceleration, I see an ability to hammer his feet, and I see body control, which just means you're talking to a high school wide receiver coach, right? That if he has that skill set, then we can teach him the rest of the routes.
He just wasn't asked to run that at Western Michigan.
He wasn't asked to, just like
much
DK.
Much like DK.
Yeah, so don't say he can't run a route tree. Just say, we haven't seen him run the route.
We'll pick more on that coming up after the break. Stay tuned. You're going to see more of Matt Nicholas, Slickhawk, and Chuck Powell here on the video stream. Are you done?
Slow it down, fella. No,
you're staying here.
No, I said cheers to those guys.
He's just drinking with those guys. That's all.
I'm not drinking.
We'll be back with more here
on,
in our live
one.
coverage of the NFL Draft
Crack
tonight
one
on
open,
950 KJ. Brought to you by Chambers Bay Distillery.
It's Draftmas. Crack one open. That's right. This is my Draftmas eggnog. Yeah, it's what you got.
Yeah, you weren't with us for as much of Draftmas this year as you've been in the past. Boy, you missed a lot of days that I introduced this year, including the brewing of the grog.
Really?
Yes, the brewing of the grog. So
can you grog up a seltzer? Is that something? I don't know how that works.
I'm just going to say you're drinking some grog, some San Juan grog right now.
I wonder if that's a flavor that they would consider making over at San Juan Seltzer. And by the way, we celebrate with them because Thursday they actually opened up their seltzery back up to some people. So that's exciting too. I've been over that. I actually, you know me in the Bachelor. I've actually watched a Bachelor viewing party over at San Juan Seltzer. It's a really great venue for stuff like that. So.
I love that seltzer is made at a seltzery. I never knew that. Until this week.
You don't think of that stuff, right? But cider is at a cidery. You brew beer at a brewery. You have a seltzery. More your comments, all your comments, send them on in, and we'll read them, and if they're good or even if they're not so good, we'll at least read them and bring them up on the stream. But how do you guys feel about this pick? I know there are a lot of different opinions. Some people thought maybe slot receiver wasn't where they needed to go. I think the most glaring need really is probably cornerback at this point, but I certainly wanted to see them go slot receiver just because, look, this offense gets stagnant so much of the time, and I think a lot of the problems with the offense are you're not moving the chains, you're not sustaining drives. It's all or nothing with this offense, and there's so much nothing, especially earlier on in the game until they adjust, that especially in the playoffs or when you get against this better competition, the elite teams in the NFL, it's not enough. There's not enough time in the game to be able to come back when you dig that kind of hole. So I think this is something that really helps with that.
Yeah, I think it allows you to kind of use the whole field. You get to stretch it from sideline to sideline, and obviously we're very good deep. We got the weapons to do that, and the quarterback with the arm strength to do that, and the accuracy to do that. So let's highlight that. Let's make this offense dangerous in short spaces, and I think that's what this pick does. You had mentioned something earlier about Russell, and he's 5'10". You can't get over that, and he had a 6'6" center last year, and he's going to have one that looks like this year in Posick. And so this argument that, all right, well, he has trouble seeing over the line for those short passes to the tight end. Well, guess what? What if we create some plays that are like, I mean, you watch Patrick Mahomes play. Yeah. Seven times a game he does this.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he gives it to Tyreek Hill, who's faster than any human being on the planet, and he runs for 15, 20 yards. Then it also sets up all that motion, that play action, because now you gotta respect Eskridge as a threat to possibly come across and do that. Not to mention you got to respect Chris Carson, who's going to hit you like a hammer completely differently than Eskridge is going to as a ball carrier. Now we're going to roll out here, Slickhawk, and we're going to find Gerald Everett coming across the middle, creating space for a really quick and easy completion, as opposed to waiting for Greg Olsen to slumber his way open or Will Dissly to be forgotten about by the defense, so he's open in the back of the end zone. Add some weapons. They've done that this year. I really like these two additions. Add Everett to that conversation.
What if we find out that of all the things Russell Wilson can do, I mean, middle infielder Russell Wilson, who slides down on the ball that the center snaps past him and picks it up and throws the ball, and he makes all the throws, and he throws on the run. What if we find out that the one thing he can't do is literally, I mean, that would be sad.
Mahomes was an infielder too. So, I mean, we're just talking about the shovel pass to the double play, the beautiful 4-6-3 double play that Puck and I talked about last night. That's all you're turning. Occasionally you just turn one of those things. It's the pitcher's best friend. Let's have it be Russell's best friend.
No, it's cool. I love it. Devin, absolutely. Thank you for celebrating with us. I hear that we're doing something with Caribou this year. That's his draft miss stocking. Come on, Bryce, get with the it's draft miss, for God's sake. He's got his draft miss stocking.
Yeah.
Chambers Bay.
Dwayne Eskridge was right in there. He fits.
Chambers Bay checking in, of course, one of our great sponsors here for all our draft coverage here on Sports Radio 950 KJR. We love those guys at Chambers Bay Distillery. Absolutely. Thanks for checking in. Martinka, love Hugh. Yeah. Now here we have video of Hugh this year, which means if there are going to be push-ups, or running around, if there's got to be a big celebration, you're going to get to see it live, which is really exciting. That's something that maybe we missed out on in years past. Loves the experience at corner. Chuck, are we going to get a two-way player here out of Dwayne Eskridge?
I'm going to doubt that seriously, but I'm glad you brought it up, because I think that Robert Rochelle pick that we talked about on the air, I think he could be available at 4. Man, if they go Eskridge and they get Rochelle, John Schneider's not going to like this. I'm going to be happy. He's going to like his draft.
When I was a kid for Christmas, I asked Santa every year for a Sega Genesis or a Super Nintendo. I just wanted one or the other. I didn't care which one, and I never got it. If you get Eskridge and Rochelle, you're getting a Super Nintendo and a Sega Genesis.
You throw in Puckett's Expos hat, and I have my draft miss is made.
My God, you have everything you ever wanted. Yeah. Speaking of Puckett, we'll throw it right back to him. Ian Furness, is he still in there? I think he is. Hugh Millen, I think Curtis is going to jump on with him as well. Sports Radio 950 KJR.
All right, welcome back. Sports Radio 950 KJR, Jason Puckett, Hugh Millen, Curtis Crabtree. One more segment with Ian Furness. Our draft coverage brought to you by Farm Fresh Northwest. Fresh, quality, pork and beef on demand. Go to northwestfarmfresh.com. Seahawks with their one pick. If you're just joining us, wide receiver out of Western Michigan. He goes by the name of Dwayne Eskridge. 5'8", 190 pounds. He was a track star, one of only 4 FBS players to average 130-plus yards per game. And he played a little cornerback as well his junior season. But out of necessity, went back to playing wide receiver this past season. A few other picks here just recently. Anthony Schwartz, wide receiver out of the University of Auburn, taken 91st overall by Cleveland. University of Pittsburgh defensive end Patrick Jones II, taken 90th overall by the Vikings. Nico Collins out of Michigan, another wide receiver, goes to the Houston Texans. And is a guy that I liked. I think a lot of people like. You watch him every Saturday because they're on the tube. But the San Francisco 49ers get running back Trey Sermon out of Ohio State. And, do you know what you have a thought or two on Trey Sermon? He's just a big, powerful back.
Yeah, and Ohio State, when he got hurt, they
changed the whole game.
Yeah, right. It was just a different deal. He was kind of like their Najee Harris, right? A big dude, but
that changed the game.
But well-rounded, and so yeah.
Puck, was that the trade? Was that the Niners and the Rams did a trade, right?
Yes.
They like a 2-for-1 deal
from the Rams. Yeah, I don't know exact details on it, but it was
so he's I feel like he's stronger than he is shifty.
Yeah, the knock on him is that he kind of like gets ball, run straight.
Get ball, run.
Get ball, run. He doesn't cut. Just.
You know what we call
that's
that?
what they said about.
That's MPSL football compared to Kinko football.
Yeah. I mean, that's, real football is in the MPSL.
Fullback and
I'm
stuff.
not sure if you're aware of what real football is, but
MPSL.
6 foot, 215 pounds.
But Derrick Henry, that was the knock on him. That's why he was a second rounder. They didn't see the shiftiness, but they didn't take into account. Just the physicality.
When you said it, I forgot that he was a second round pick.
Yeah,
pretty good.
That's unbelievable.
Heisman Trophy winner.
The Seahawks will have 2 more picks coming up. We've also seen a little bit of a run on quarterbacks, at least the backup quarterbacks. The wide receivers, Ian, you brought this up earlier, that initially you weren't all pleased with the wide receiver selection. One, because you wanted to acquire more picks.
Yeah.
You didn't like the history of them selecting wide receivers. And, for the most part, I mean, they've hit on 3 out of, I think, 12.
15 they've taken. 15 they've taken. 16 now. Because you have to look at some of the guys that were listed as tight ends, but they told us afterwards. Like Sullivan, some people listed as tight end.
Yeah.
They told us he was a wide receiver. So going on that.
Who are the other 2? Who am I missing on the other guys?
The guys they hit on?
No, I'm just trying. I got 12 because I had
Durham probably was a tight end that's actually a wide receiver.
No, I had him down there. Yeah, but they missed on Durham for sure. Harper, Richardson, Lawler, Moore, but. I mean, like Moore and Lawler, those guys are like 7th-round picks.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen,
Ursua.
If we're talking just about the top 2 rounds, then they've missed on 1, and that's P-Rich, right?
Yes.
If we talk about the top 4 rounds, then they've missed on basically everybody not named DK, Tyler, and Golden.
Yeah.
So they've had success with those high draft picks outside of P-Rich, and they've had no success elsewhere with wide receivers.
Right.
I mean, that's so.
Is that a pretty good hit rate, though? What they've done in the first,
I think in the second round, yeah.
In the second round, yes.
Second round. Well, they haven't used the first rounder.
Right.
So.
No, in the second round, they've hit 3 of second or. Then we go third, then you get to start including like guys like Darbo and stuff like that. So it depends on where you want to cut it off.
The best round has been their 8th round.
Yep. Right. Metcalf hit second round. Darbo's a missed third round. Lockett's a steal in the third round.
Right.
Richardson a miss in the second, and then
Jennings,
Tate. Tate was Jennings was 4th.
Yeah.
Tate was second round.
Yeah. Second round they've done well except for P-Rich. Right. Right. Yeah.
When I say 8th round, I mean
Doug
UFAs, right?
Yeah,
Doug and
Jermaine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they like the thing is, like my thought was, Puck, what I was mentioning earlier, they've used a lot of draft capital over the last 2 years on draft picks on wide receivers. And now, hopefully, by moving up and picking a guy in the second round, they haven't missed.
Yeah.
Because they've missed on everybody else outside of DK the last couple of years using, 6 picks in 2 years on wide receivers. Assuming Swain is – I'm going to give Swain a miss because they had to go to the second round to get this guy today.
I'm going to see if I can draw mind's eye, draw a play in your mind, because it was the play of the game in the Super Bowl, the one that Kansas City beat San Francisco. San Francisco had a fourth quarter lead.
Mm-hmm.
It was 3rd and long with 8 minutes to go in the game. If Kansas City doesn't,
you draw it up for the camera so the camera can.
Well, not a bad idea, but I don't know what are the numbers here.
Just go ahead and finish.
Okay, all right. So
They're busting your chops.
So it's 3rd and long,
No, I'm serious.
and to first, if I can really express to you this concept, you gotta. I'm gonna backtrack and then I'm gonna come back. There's a common concept, and any coaches that are listening, they know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a concept called smash. And smash basically is this. If you're in a high school or a college or any coaching convention, you could go to any coach in America and say, hey, if you're smash, you can just use that term. Smash is a slot receiver, a number 2 receiver, maybe a tight end, running a corner route that's up and then diagonal towards the sideline, and then the widest receiver doing some type of flat control. Might be a hitch route, might be a whip where you start inside like on a shallow cross and you get back. But you're only going to be at 5 to 6 yards, maybe 7 yards at the deepest. So in certain coverages, you're going to high-low the flat defender, and you're going to have a corner route intermediate to the sideline, and then you're going to have something down in the flat, okay? But the spacing is such that the shallow guys at 5 to 7 yards, no deeper than that, right? What Kansas City did on that, and it's a testament to the physical skills of 2 people. Again, this is the Super Bowl winner. You could YouTube it. I'm sure there's 25 videos on it. They took Tyreek Hill, and they started him on the left side, and they started to do a deep angle cross, which he's starting on the left side and angling far to the right side. And they caught the middle safety thinking that he was going to keep going to the right. But then at about the middle of the field, at about 15, 18 yards, he starts to break back towards the left to do a corner route. But the depth of the corner route is 35, 40 yards down the field. Meanwhile, the widest receiver for the Chiefs ran a 15-yard in route to suck up the widest corner on that on the defense. So, in essence, you look at that in its core, that's smash. Now, maybe I lost you, but smash is have the shallow guy at 5 to 7 yards and then have a corner out on top of it. What I just described is the shallow guy is at 15 yards and the corner routes at 40. So you got to have a dude with big-time speed to get to the 40-yard corner route, and you got to have a quarterback with a big-time arm, which, of course, Mahomes did. They completed it, and that was the game winner. Without the play that I just described, the San Francisco 49ers are the world champions, and Kansas City lost the Super Bowl. Okay? So Seattle did that play last year. And DK Metcalf was the guy trying to do the big corner. It was against the Patriots. You remember the corner out that Metcalf caught, and there was a guy draped all over him. It was just a beautiful throwing catch.
Gilmore.
It was Gilmore, right?
It's Gilmore, yeah.
Okay, so they got a touchdown on that. That was man coverage. It wasn't exactly the picture that you draw it up for.
There's no separation.
Yeah, there wasn't a separate. It's really designed to beat a zone, okay, just to get over the, somehow dangle that 15-yard in-breaking route by the widest receiver and the cornerback on that side, that he's going to drive in on that ball, and then you throw it over the top of him. So let's see if we get this Eskridge in here. Now put him in the slot, let him start and do it more like the Tyreek Hill, break to the middle, and now he'll let him do the 40-yard corner.
Was that the same?
Because this is why you get a guy like this.
Was that the same play they tried to run against the Rams where Russell had to hurry the throw? Because DK had Ramsey beat. And if he had like another half second, he beats Ramsey, and that might change everything because all of a sudden the cockiest guy in the world.
That was a go route. That was more of a vert. That was just a vert up the sideline.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and it was just an
where Russ had
ball.
to kind of slid over and he hurried the throw and all that. So.
Yeah, DK had the separation, but that was just a vertical. Okay. But the play that I described.
So you're saying if this guy's Tyreek Jr., like if he's 80% of Tyreek Hill, it's a home run.
It's a copycat league.
Mm-hmm.
That scheme has been tried by a few teams. It's a really tough scheme to because it's just like, wait a minute. It's like, when you use a vector graphic in computers, you have
no idea.
Okay, well,
You lost me there. Puck?
Excuse me?
Puck? You
clip
got that
art.
one?
Have you ever
No.
selected a art and then and it makes the little square, the rectangle around in the corner?
Yes, I'm with him on this one. Yes.
And you just take it and you diagonally just blow it up. Like I could put a little image of a Corvette on your computer screen. You click it on the mouse.
Yeah.
There's a rectangular around. Now you take the corner and you just drag it and you make it a bigger Corvette on your screen.
Yeah, it gets all pixelated, but you make it bigger.
Now vector as opposed to raster or bitmap and the techies know what I'm talking about. But the point is what Kansas City did on that play is they took smash and they mouse clicked it, and then they took the corner and they just drew it really big.
So he runs his route better than DK, you're thinking?
I'm thinking that it's more natural to have a roadrunner like him
As opposed to
in the
6'4"
slot and
240.
in a zone, and let him be the guy because he can start and then start to break over the middle, and then he can change his direction without breaking down his speed. And I think he could have just slightly sharper in and out of his angle break. Now, that's no slam on DK Metcalf. It's just DK's 6'3.5", 230 pounds. So just naturally, I'm just going by, the book. You'd rather have the body style of Eskridge running that route than DK.
My parting shot as I get out of here, and first of all, I'm still vectoring. Can you explain? Call me
Well,
later.
I understand it, but I mean, and I'm wondering if you need to turn in your elite football mind
I
card.
do.
Because
I
don't.
my vector and
Now,
my computer.
if Slickhawk is listening, which he probably is, I mean, this is why.
That is the most.
That's why.
We have spent the last 2.5 hours, right, talking about a wide receiver drafted, and outside of a few fly sweeps, everything has been about the passing game. Wasn't there supposed to be some sort of massive shift that made the quarterback mad that they're going to run the football here now? Does this signal anything different?
I thought that's why we have a new offensive coordinator in Seattle.
Because we're going to run the football?
Because they didn't agree on running and passing, right?
And they brought in, they re-signed Chris Carson. They've got Rashad Penny. But
he could just be a bunch of window dressing, though.
So this guy's he's just a decoy then. But, I mean, wasn't this the whole – we spent all of February talking about this, the quarterback's mad and pouting all over North America, and they went out and got a receiver for him.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we got a guy who can run a lot of fly sweeps too. So
can he snap the ball and block?
I mean, if that's a handoff, I mean, if he's just running fly sweeps.
Well, if you do a rocket sweep, and from shotgun, and you do that.
You know what though? Russell's going to want to do the shovel pass. That way he gets credit for the
yeah.
pass.
There you go. You run the fly sweep, but just let him tap it.
It's just got to be the little shovel.
It's in the air for 15 inches, but it's a pass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Otherwise, he's not going to be happy.
Yeah. So that's okay.
But I mean, honestly, isn't this
a small concession?
Like they went out and they spent their only draft capital to draft a wide receiver for a team that allegedly wanted to run the football.
Yeah, but what does that really matter? Like, okay, so they drafted a wide receiver. But what I'm saying is, what comes on Sunday,
right?
And they continue to do the same boring ass offense.
That's my question.
And then you're like, oh, well, then why did you draft the guy?
That's my question.
Okay,
that's my question. Like,
it sounds like you're taking a shot at Wilson. Like,
no,
they're trying to appease you, Wilson.
Oh well, I'm
okay.
They did do the opposite of Green Bay. Like, Green Bay drafts a corner, Seattle drafts a wide receiver.
I don't expect this offense to change one iota under Shane Waldron.
That's my parting.
Because Pete Carroll runs the entire ship. And they're going to run the same offense that they've been running for the last few years.
That's my parting shot to ask you two guys that discussion for the great listeners online and watching right now. They drafted a shiny, bright Ferrari for the passing game for a team
It's going to be in the garage.
I'm asking, is it going to be in the garage, or are they going to go back to the first half of last season?
Or is Russ going to have time to use the Ferrari, or is he going to get slammed before he gets to the garage?
Oh, Hugh, I got a treat for you sometime, too. I've got about a 2-minute Greg Cosell off script talking about quarterback progression.
Oh, boy.
I've got that for you.
You know my feeling about Greg Cosell.
Yes.
Going to need to give Hugh some time when he listens
I may need you on Monday for that.
Okay.
Okay.
I think Greg Cosell knows more football than any non-player or coach that I've ever heard in the media.
Because the off script and the philosophy, I'm just curious. I am curious. It's not really a shot. I'm asking the question: is it going to be parked in the garage? This new bright shiny toy, and Chris Carson going to get 30 carries a game, or what are we going to do?
Well, I think that Carroll showed that his leash on the let Russ cook was short. right?
Yes.
So maybe the issue was just, hey, if they'd have just kept it rolling,
Yeah.
and didn't have that little spell where they had some turnovers and what have you, that he wouldn't have had the tectonic shift back to where they had been. But every coach who wants to run the football, when you're getting chunk plays in the passing game, I still have never heard a guy that say, you know what, I'd rather do this 5 yards at a time than 25 yards at a time.
Then let Eskridge go.
I've never,
25.
ever seen
agree,
any
yeah.
coach, if he's really convinced, he might say, look, I want to run the football. But when the passing game, look, we know this. Just look up. If you're at 5.2 yards per rush attempt, you're among the league's leaders, right? To be among the league leaders in pass attempts, you have to be at 9.2. Like it's just it's simple math. It's just easier to get yards in the passing game.
That goes back to my question. Are they going to park the Ferrari in the garage
No.
after a couple games, a couple turnovers, a couple sacks? Let's go back to Carson.
They're going to put it in the storage shed. Is where they're going to.
And remember that's 9.2 for a attempt.
One of those cool storage sheds that look like up and down the elevator.
All right, Ian. All right. Safe drive home. There he is. Ian Burnett will continue to rock and roll as we finish here the third round. Go to VendricasOrganics.com.
All right, we got, I think, a couple more breaks that we'll get to be here, Chuck and I, here in the San Juan Seltzer Virtual Sports Bar, which is 2 locations this draft, because you got the Tacoma location here, and then you've got the well over there in Kirkland as well. So we both get to come at you. I can't perform these feats of dancing and drumming and guitaring without getting a lot of breath. So. Chuck, I'm going to use the most used phrase here in the last probably 14 months. You're muted.
People are asking me to unleash the hair.
Yeah, you know how they add words and phrases to the Oxford English Dictionary every year. I mean, that's going to be the one. That's the buzz phrase right there. I want to piggyback on their conversation they had about the offense and just kind of where we go from here. Because some interesting points made. I have no problem when you have a quarterback the caliber of Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson on their level. I've got no problem with them going out and saying, hey, I want help. Let's do this. Let's do that. Did it get out of control? Did it go too far with Russ and everything? I think it probably did. I think a lot of us would agree with that. But I don't mind a quarterback, a 10-year veteran, being vocal. And whether this is going to be kind of a chicken and the egg thing, I guess, but whether Russell's comments, forced them to make a couple of changes or they were going to do it anyway, and it happens to appease Russ, I think that there's been a clear direction from this front office in an effort to get better offensively, get a little bit better up front, and get another weapon for Russell Wilson, and change a little bit, and bring in an offensive coordinator that's going to change things and help modernize this offense a little bit.
That's the word. That's what I was going to jump in with. This is a more modern offense. It's modernized. Brian Schottenheimer had some really good plays that he came up with in the offseason, and then all of a sudden he ran out of them and didn't have the creativity to keep it going. I blame Pete Carroll a lot for what happened to the offense last year, because I think that he put the shackles on their aggression. And I understand why Russell said, what's the deal, man?
Yeah.
We're 6-2. There are hiccups. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers had terrible hiccups during the year, and they ended up winning the world championship because they stuck with the plan. I kind of understand Russell's frustration, but you can't have all your wide receivers tell the media, we never adjusted. They adjusted to us. We didn't adjust to them. You have the opportunity here in Waldron's offense to have a lot more versatile offense, a lot more modern offense. Well, if you're going to have a modern offense, you need modern pieces to fit that offense. And I think that's what Eskridge brings to the table. I think that's what Hugh has been trying to map out. And to Ian's point, I don't necessarily think this means that we're going to throw the ball more, even if you, Slick, and I want them to.
Yeah.
I think it just says when we do throw it, we don't need it to always be a 75-yard pass downfield in order to be effective.
Exactly.
Let's move the ball in chunks 25 yards at a time, but it shouldn't always hinge on some deep ball where Russell Wilson's got to show off his arm strength. Let's get some different kind of weapons in the pass game and the running game. And you know what? Guess what? Defense now doesn't know what's coming. That makes Carson more effective.
Yeah, and this involves just, and it doesn't have to go too deep, but just an analysis and a recognition of what is the problem. Moneyball, what's the problem? What is the problem, Pete? What's the problem? The problem last year was not the problem wasn't that offensively they were running the ball more. That's not what we mean by shackles. They were still throwing the ball, or at least dialing up passing plays at a pretty high clip, higher than any other year under Pete Carroll. And that's including the second half of the year. The problem was the kinds of plays they were dialing up. And if we want to talk about Russell Wilson and the offensive struggles, and is it on Russell or is it on the offense or what is it? Mike Leaps and Bounds. What's up, man? I missed Tecmo Tuesday. We want to talk about whose fault it was and why it happened. It's all that combined, I think. They're dialing up plays that are long developing plays down the field, and that takes time. Meanwhile, you have an offensive line that maybe can't block for that long. They were better, but they're not blocking all day like you might see in a New Orleans or in a Green Bay or something like that. It's not that level of offensive line. And then you have a quarterback that in that system is waiting for that long developing play. When it's not there, got a guy in his face. Now he's holding on to the ball too long. And, he was not quick to get to second and third reads and recognize early enough that the defense wasn't going to let that deep play happen. So I think it's just a really big combination of crap that led to them struggling offensively last season. And I think the changes that they've made, I think we're back already. Oh, maybe not. Puck isn't there. I think the changes that they've made lend themselves to fixing those.
What is Shane Waldron's description when he was with the Rams? He wasn't just the coordinator. He was the short passing game coordinator. The idea is that we're going to give Russell the opportunity to throw more high percentage passes to get the ball to some weapons to create some plays, and that will help the offensive line as much as anything.
All right, last thoughts, next break. Until then, Puck and Hugh coming up next on Sports Radio 950 KJR.
Now back to our 12th man NFL draft coverage, powered by Lakeland Village Golf Course, by Fairway Mortgage of Auburn, by Hendrikus Organics, by Farm Fresh Northwest, by Redbox, by Chambers Bay Bourbon, and by San Juan Seltzer, on your home for the NFL Draft. Seattle Sports Radio 950 KJR.
Welcome back. Our draft coverage continues on this Friday night. No place we'd rather be. We've been doing it for, oh my God, how many years? Decade plus, covering the NFL draft here on 950 KJR. Not only can you listen to it via the iHeartRadio app or on the old school, just radio dial, 950 KJR, we are being streamed right now as well on our YouTube channel, also on Twitch and on Twitter and Facebook Live. You've been watching us and then also watching Slickhawk and Chuck during our commercial breaks. One of the best personalities in this draft, and we just found out about him in the last 5 days, a few days, has just been drafted by the Denver Broncos, 98th overall. The guard out of Wisconsin, Whitewater. Quinn, I think is it Meinerz? I believe is how you pronounce his last name. You just missed him watching on TV. Have you seen this guy at all, Hugh?
No.
This Quinn Meinerz?
Is he the center?
He's the guard. I think he can play center as well.
Yeah.
He trains in the woods.
Yeah.
So he
Rocky?
Yeah. But he's like chops wood. He tackles trees.
Like Rocky from, was it 4?
4. I mean, it's hilarious.
What type of trees does he tackle?
It was kind of small, but he still tackled it. It was
He's
fun.
clearly cut the tree and he's tackled it. But it's hilarious.
Okay.
All of it.
All right.
And then you put on the film and I get this Wisconsin Whitewater. I don't even know what level it is. It's NAIA or something like
Division
that.
3.
Division 3.
Yeah, Division 3.
He's mauling people. I mean, he's like Jefferson from Fast Times. He's just murdering him.
How did he end up there?
But I don't know. No clue. But he has been a sensation, and he has been taken with the. It's a cool story. Watch some of the highlights when you get home. It really is cool.
You know, Jeff Schwartz is the offensive lineman that went to Oregon. Now he does stuff for Fox. He basically did an offensive lineman version of the John Gruden "I love this quarterback man" thing, and he went through all of this stuff with a few different guys, and he was by far the star.
And this is YouTube?
On Fox Sports, but it's on Twitter and YouTube. Oh, yeah, you'll be able to find it.
I mean, he's a pretty good. I mean, he's great. His overall rank was 61. His position grade was 3. I
thought maybe the Seahawks might try to get him. He made a lot of sense for them loving stories.
Yeah, Seahawks were linked to him in a couple of mock drafts. So the Seahawks, though, with their one lone pick today in the second round, ending up with the wide receiver Dwayne Eskridge out of Western Michigan, 5'8", 190 pounds. They'll pick again tomorrow. Well, they'll only make 2 more picks tomorrow. Round 4, 129th overall. Round 7, 250th overall. I keep thinking, we've talked a lot about Eskridge and what he's going to do in the offense and who does he look like. We've talked about Tyreek Hill and did McVay ever have this type of a wide receiver in his offense, and even brought up a little bit about Percy Harvin. When we watch McVay's offense and we don't know what we're going to get with Shane Waldron, we assume it's a version of whatever McVay was doing with the Rams. Is the offense, does it not stretch it vertically at all? Or was it because of the personnel that McVay had with Woods, Kupp, others there, that they just didn't want to stretch it vertically because they didn't have the guys? Will they incorporate the strengths of Metcalf and Lockett, do you think, in this offense, to get the ball downfield more? Because obviously they have weapons to do it. They have a quarterback that can throw a perfect ball downfield.
Well, if you go back and look at the Rams offense when they were at the best, when McVay, when they went to the Super Bowl and Goff was a MVP candidate and a starter in the Pro Bowl, it wasn't that long ago, right?
Right.
And the attributes of that offense were, first of all, everything was based off of the stretch play primarily to the left. They got that great left tackle from Cincinnati, Whitworth, right? And you had Gurley running that stretch play, and he was great at it. And so from that, the right-handed quarterback Goff would run the naked play, and so they ran a lot of stretch left, naked right, stretch left, naked right, and those complement one another. And I mean, that's going back to the Alex Gibbs, Mike Shanahan days that they liked, and so you had that component. Then you had a component, the most amount of under the center play action passes, right? So big time play action passes from that, where the quarterback is turning his back to the defense. That's hard for some guys because you got to turn back and locate it. Additionally, they would have more squeeze formations, whether it's 2x2 or 3x1, where the wide receivers would, instead of spread out, where you could see everybody's condensed near the core of the formation. From that, multiple receivers can run crossing routes. So that if you line up, if you bunch up, let's say a bunch to the right side, you got 3 receivers just in the wing of the right tackle. All 3 of those guys, in theory, can run a crossing route and get to the left side of the formation. So it can stress out zones when you have that many squeezed formations. So the combination of that, they would run as I said, the nakeds, but they would run a ton of fake nakeds and then curl up over the ball, have a couple guys curling up over the balls or deep curls. If you actually watch the tape, and I've studied it, I studied it. If you said, okay, what's the primary receiver? You just watch the concept, draw it up, and you say, okay, this is how you'd read it. This is the number 1, this is the number 2. They were asking a lot of their quarterback. Like, you have to have a big arm and ability to, throw intermediate stuff, oftentimes on the run. It's a big ask what they're doing. That's why they acquired Matthew Stafford. They wanted due to the big arm. And so I think they just ran out of speed. They didn't have enough speed. That's why they got Deshaun Jackson. I don't have all the answers as to why Goff was so good and then so mediocre, but those were the attributes. I think part of it was that it was new 4 or 5 years ago, and then teams see it a lot and they copy it a lot. And then all of a sudden defenses aren't as fool. I can remember Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright in play action literally being turned around, hunting up, trying to find guys because they are induced into their naked keys, meaning this. You're Bobby Wagner. Okay, I'm going to explain this to you. You're defending the Rams offense. You see Todd Gurley on the fake stretch to the left side over Whitworth. But then you say, no, it's not the stretch. It's Goff running the boot. Well, you're now instructed, turn your back on Goff and find the intermediate crosser. Okay? But then what Goff will do is he'll start the naked, like he's going to be out on the perimeter and be out running towards the sideline, but he'll stop and set up in the pocket, which allows him to then throw back to the left side and throw over the middle. And Goff would just be whistling balls right behind KJ and Bobby, and I'm like, whoa. I mean, I study the Seahawks intently. I haven't seen Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright this turned around in zone coverage forever. Like, they're confused. The ball is whistling 4 inches by their head. They have no idea what they're hunting. Like, it was a really cool offense. Oh, and by the way, they had a remarkable screen game off of the naked. So they would fake to Gurley, fake the boot, set up, make it look like they're going to throw over the middle, and then throw a screen pass to Gurley, who had a great feel for finding the open spot in the screen. So it was a cool offense, but it asked a lot of the quarterback.
Were they prevented, though? Was McVay prevented because of Goff's arm of being able to address and make plays downfield and stretch the game and stretch the pass plays more vertically? And do you think it's something that you'll see more of this year, obviously, because they have Matt Stafford, and he can throw it downfield? But will we see Shane Waldron with Russell Wilson, who probably is the best quarterback in the league at throwing the ball deep? And will they incorporate, can he take the strengths of Russell and then the strengths of this offense, but also be able to get the ball more vertically downfield in some of these?
Yeah, and vertical can be, the deep high-arcing throws.
Right.
Or it can be deep intermediate, like the deep angle crosses, and deep comebacks and deep curl routes. Where the ball is caught 18 to 24 yards from the line of scrimmage. Those balls, oftentimes, you got to smoke those balls in zone coverage. Now, man, you can layer it because there's nobody out in front. But if you're throwing into windows, you got to rip it. And so when we say deep, and the challenge that I thought that the offense presented to Goff, and I thought Goff answered the challenge. I remember it's hard to be the Ram quarterback. There's a heck of a lot of times where McVay's over there and he's an aggressive SOB and he's calling a play. And if you freeze the tape and say, okay, now let's go over to the whiteboard, let's drop that play and tell me who's the primary receiver, who's the number one guy. If everything goes right, who did McVay want to get the ball to? And you say, well, yeah, he wanted to get it 24 yards down the field on a we talked about on a flood layer, and rip it in. Well, you call those play after play after play. That's hard duty over the course of 30 pass attempts in a game to not make a mistake. But you throw 2 interceptions a game, all of a sudden you're at 32 for the year, like you suck. So I think they're going to have that. Yes, they're going to have the deep stuff, but as Sean McVay, I think Sean McVay he had a great system that had some resemblance to the Kyle Shanahan system. A lot of what I said about McVay was also true of Shanahan, but now those guys have to adopt. They were considered the boy wonders of the brightest minds in football. Well, 3 years is a long time for defensive coordinators to go to school on what was unique about your offense. So I think that McVay has to make an adjustment. I think, for that matter, Shanahan has to make an adjustment. And as it pertains to incorporating that offense here, if those guys have to make that adjustment, you have to make those adjustments here. And I would add that because Russell feels like, okay, he doesn't want to get hit much, I think there's going to be an emphasis on the quick game and the detail of the quick game. And by the way, I don't know where we are on time.
You're good.
Because I'm going to pivot on this because I thought about you a lot today.
Okay. Well, God.
I thought about you a lot today.
Can I
at
just
my
mention
house.
something
I'm going to explain why.
Okay, let me mention something real quick. The Tennessee Titans, are we going to hear from it? Or you want me to mention it? Tennessee Titans with the 100th and overall pick One of my favorite players. I'm surprised he lasted this long. Elijah Molden.
Yeah, good for him.
Washington.
Good for him.
Goes to Tennessee Titans. So I'm kind of surprised. He fell all the way down to 100.
Well, I think he was smallish, and there's still the sense that the nickel guys are
Isn't
specialists.
everyone playing nickel, though? Isn't every defense got 3 DBs out there?
Yes, but I still think, there's some...
that's a steal.
There's some caveman mentality, but he's got great eyes, great instincts. His dad played in the NFL. I know his dad. I know his head coach, Chris Miller from West Lynn. Super kid.
Oh.
Tough.
Chris Miller was his
head coach at West Lynn. Yep. Yeah. And he and I were teammates in Atlanta, the former Oregon Duck quarterback.
Yeah.
Chris, great guy. Elijah's a great guy. Alex, rather, his father's a great guy. So good on him.
Yeah.
Good to hear a local guy do that. And going to play for Mike Vrabel. And,
great fit.
Wonderful. And Nashville's a great town.
Yeah. So you were thinking about me today.
I was thinking about you today because we we talked about the pocket passer, and the refined parts. And so, I'm with my kid who's a college quarterback, and we're studying Tom Brady, and it was his idea. He's pulling this out. I'm doing other stuff, and I just walk into the family room, and he's got Tom Brady game tape up, right? That's awesome. Just being a gym rat. And so naturally, I got to sit down and I got to watch this stuff. And I'll just describe.
How much Brady hours of Brady film do you think you've watched?
Nearly countless. But the game, it was just the NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl. And I'll describe just a few plays. Brady it's down in the red zone, and it's in the Super Bowl, and it's first down, and Kansas City is up there, and they fake like they're going to have a blitz, and they back out, and Brady takes his step. He takes his 3 steps from shotgun, and he immediately dumps it down to the running back right in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he only took one hitch. I'm telling you, other quarterbacks are going to get hung up like they're going to try and find a seam route. They're going to find, and Brady has the sense to know, like, hey, the best thing for me to do is just quickly. It's 5 yards in front of him, but he stands there, and with his tall, he darts it down like on a downward motion, throws a hard ball, but at his belt. Because if you throw a hard ball at his eyes and he misses it, it's going to get intercepted. Like, he has these little details of what he does, and he gets a 14 yards on a check down. You'd say, well, it's just a check down. If you're watching that game, you're just going, oh, it's just a check down. But there's an art to knowing when and how to release it. Okay, he had one against Green Bay where it's 4th down and 4, just over midfield at the end of the first half. There's a stunt, and the center makes a mistake, and there's a free runner on, and he's got Leonard Fournette running an option route. Leonard Fournette doesn't read that the corner's in the flat. He should have broken it on the inside. So Brady, with the guy in his face because the center blew the stunt, he sees Fournette break into the outside, but he knows it's cloud coverage and the corner's there to jump. And with anticipation and a guy right in his face, he throws it at the back hip to Fournette, just the right amount where he turns Fournette's body around enough to protect him from the corner, but not so much that a halfback who doesn't have great hands can't catch the ball. He throws the exact perfect ball at the right time, holding him up, saying, dude, in essence, he's saying, you cheesed the freaking read. You blew the read. You should have gone inside. But I see you went outside. I know the danger. I will throw the ball exactly where it needs to go so you can turn around and they pick up the first down. Guess what? The next freaking play, they throw a go route for a touchdown. Okay, so his ability, he had another in the Super Bowl. He had another one where midfield in the 4th quarter, 3rd and 4, they run out. They run, all this fake blitz and what have you, and Brady knows exactly. He's got a running back on in Texas, and he knows exactly the time and the space where to hit it. All these completions that I'm describing, the ball's in the air less than 5 yards, and the majority of NFL throws. Even darn it, I meant before this I was gonna look up Pat Mahomes, I was gonna look up Josh Allen, and I was gonna pick up a third guy, and I was gonna read the number of attempts that go between 0 and 10 yards. And I'll bet you that is the most. Even Pat Mahomes, you take 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, any 10-yard stretch, I'll bet you Pat Mahomes has more pass attempts from 0 to 10 yards from the line of scrimmage than any. The ability to know the refined parts of the short passing game and to understand, to read the defenses, he's checking protections, all these things. There's a reason that Tom Brady has 7 freaking Super Bowl rings and that Tampa Bay was 7-9 before he was a Buccaneer, and then all of a sudden they're the Super Bowl champs. And it's these little things. So when I said the other day that I hope that aspect never leaves the game, because I was a teammate of Deion Sanders. I love the dudes who can, flair and the juice, and now we got this guy Eskridge, and I hope he's done all these flair things. And if a quarterback can do it, that's great. But I hope one team out of 32, really what I hope is 16 out of 32 teams, still have somebody who can do these details, these fine details of reading defenses, throwing in with anticipation, manipulating the offensive line because he doesn't have any wheels, avoiding sacks with his brain, not his feet. That aspect of 500-level quarterbacking. And I purposely just described passes that didn't go in the air more than 5 yards, but they're special. Mm-hmm. They're special. They're game-changing. They win Super Bowls because of your understanding. It's the layered. It's the mastery of the position. So I hope it doesn't get to dudes that, my primary's covered, so let me just run. I can watch punt returners run. I want to see a dude who can master the position with his brain. Is that too much to ask?
To everyone that's listening, find something that you love as much as Hugh Millen loves talking football.
Quarterbacking specifically.
And quarterbacking, and really
awesome.
Thomas Allen Brady.
I mean,
Well, there's a reason why he's the GOAT, right? And it's not just
great stuff, man. It's awesome.
And by the way, how he sets his feet, to just a perfect balance and
I inspired it. That's the best thing. Like, I inspired it. We got a break.
You're inspirational, Puck.
I am very inspirational. All right, we'll have more. The second day is almost over. Brandon Stevens selected at SMU cornerback. We'll have one more pick. It's the Broncos. Stay tuned. You got Slickhawk and Chuck Powell.
We should have Pete and John here before the end of the night, too.
They're going to jump on the video cast right now and give their thoughts on the day number 2 of the NFL Draft. Back with more here on 950 KJ.
All right, as the final pick of the night is being made right now by the Denver Broncos, and it's Baron Browning, linebacker out of Ohio State. Day 2 of the NFL Draft in Cleveland is done, and but our coverage is not done. Of course, it's not. No, not here in the San Juan Seltzer Virtual Sports Bar. Matt Slickhawk, Mikolas, and Chuck Powell. Hugh is a big football nerd. That's why we love him. That's why we have him, and they were saying to find something that you love as much as Hugh loves football and loves Tom Brady. And Chuck, I think you have that with the draft. I think that's exactly where you sit on that. So you're muted again, but you know what? That's okay. And you even got I like that. Shocky's letting you know. Okay, there
Let
you
me
go.
stop you there. Macrame.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have you ever macrameed me anything?
Yes.
Really?
Just been too embarrassed to give it to you, but it's a mock turtleneck, and it's got your name on it. So.
You should never be embarrassed of being a macro man.
I'm an amateur.
This is, I believe this is our last segment here tonight. So I wanted to jump into kind of what we want the Seahawks to do from here. They have a 4th-round pick, a 7th-round pick. Ifeatu Melifonwu went to the Lions. Man, as he kept falling, I was like, I mean, let's just forget about the 7th-round pick and let's just move up and grab him. But he goes to the Lions there, so that didn't work out. But I mean, there's needs at center or guard. We know interior offensive lineman. There's obvious needs at cornerback, and they've struck gold in the back end of drafts before at the cornerback position. So it's just kind of where do they go from here, or do they just go? I mean, when you pick so late, 4 and 7. Do you even go for need, or do you just kind of go for more specialties like they kind of got in the 2nd round?
Well, I think they need some cornerback depth for sure, and I'm not surprised that they didn't go early there because this is what they coach the best. So Shaquille Griffin was an upset that he went in the 3rd round. So I'm not surprised that they waited till later in the draft, but I do believe they'll address it. Here's the problem. 15 cornerbacks are already gone.
Yeah.
So you're down to your 16th rated guy at NFL.com, for example. I mean, obviously the Seahawks have a special breed of corner that they look for. Robert Rochelle is still there, a name I mentioned earlier in the hour out of Central Arkansas. It's a guy that hadn't played in a year, but you want to talk about a freak athlete who's got the freakishly long arms and frame that the Seahawks are looking for. He's still on the board, but is he going to make it to the Seahawks? Because he's got to be one of the next 1 or 2 corners taken. Is he going to make it to the Seahawks in the 4th round? Another guy is Shaun Wade out of Ohio State, who struggled a little bit, even though he played on a great team. There's a feeling that Shaun Wade, learned a lot at Ohio State, but struggled against top competition. So he's another person that we brought up in the draft miss catalog. Just to give you a comparison, 15 cornerbacks have been taken. Guess how many running backs have been taken?
2.
4.
3. 4.
4 running backs through 3 rounds. That's what people think of the running back position today.
That's wild.
Meanwhile, 15 cornerbacks have been taken to this point in the draft. The other position is center. Only 4 centers are off the board. I'll throw out Trey Hill, who was also mentioned in the draft miss catalog out of Georgia.
On the morning show, we've talked about the best nicknames, both in Seattle athletes and all around the country. If Rochelle ends up being the pick to Seattle, I will forever refer to him as the promo. That will be his nickname here in Seattle henceforth if he ends up as a Seahawk.
What if Robert Rochelle knows that he made a promo in Seattle, Washington?
We have to let him know. We'll get him on the air at some point. We'll play it for him, and I'm sure he'll get a kick out of it. But we have to do that. No question.
Yeah, but he's got to be a huge candidate. I think they're going to take a cornerback, and if he's still there, he's the guy.
That'd be awesome. This is you've popped in here and there, but this is your first long-term, long-form experience here in the virtual sports bar this year, presented by San Juan Seltzer. How's it been? You have fun? I love the draft miss lights, by the way. I love the decorations. It's great. Yeah. So
wonderful.
It's been a blast.
I think there's even a board back there that says Merry Draftmas. Yeah. Yeah. So Unicorn made that. But no, it's been great. I've had a lot of fun with you. This is a cool format. So hopefully, we had a lot of nice feedback, so we appreciate that. So we should do this more often.
I think this is going to end up being it for us. Pete and John are going to talk here in a few minutes now that the 3rd round is over. So I guess we're kind of on their time, as Bain said, on your time, Captain. So that's kind of what we're waiting for with the coverage here with Puck and with Hugh. But a lot of coverage tomorrow as well. Of course, we're going to have all 4 through 7 rounds. What's interesting though, on Sports Radio 950 KJR on the actual radio station at 11:30, we are going to jump to the Huskies spring practice game. So we're going to do that. But while that happens, I will be right here in the San Juan Seltzer Virtual Sports Bar, and I will give you not 1, not 2, but 3 hours of draft coverage through those last few rounds, leading right up until Chuck Powell and Curtis Crabtree as they wrap up the draft day. All right, here we go. Let's see if we can get John and Pete up to the podium with Puck and with Hugh Millen. Thanks a lot, Chuck.
We welcome you back to our NFL draft coverage. Day number 2 is in the books. Jason Puckett, Hugh Millen, Curtis Crabtree, our Seahawks reporters here as well. Kevin Shockey, Matt Mikolas, and Chuck Powell. They're on the video stream as well. We're on video as well. Hello, Video World, YouTube. We've got our Facebook Live. We are on Twitter. We are also on Twitch there as well, including our iHeartRadio app. If you don't have the iHeartRadio app, please download it today. You can take us on the move, on the go, in case you missed all of our draft coverage. All of our interviews will be up there on the iHeartRadio app. We're waiting to hear from Pete Carroll and John Schneider momentarily to talk about the 2nd round of the draft, where they had just 1 pick. And then the 56th overall pick, they took a wide receiver out of Western Michigan that we've taken and have talked a lot about here this evening, Dwayne Eskridge. A 5'8", 190-pound wide receiver. The day 2 was over. Last couple of picks. Baron Browning out of Ohio State, outside linebacker, taken 105th overall. Brandon Stevens out of SMU, a corner, taken 104th there by the Baltimore Ravens. And in case you missed it, Elijah Molden was selected in the third round, 100th overall, out of UW by the Tennessee Titans. As we're waiting for Pete Carroll and John Schneider to address the media, we'll bring Curtis Crabtree on. He's our Seahawks reporter, along with myself and Hugh Millen. Curtis, tomorrow they'll just have 2 picks. Do you think they stay with the 2 picks, or do we see them trying to trade down?
They might maneuver back a little bit from the 4th round selection to try to add a little bit more, but I think conceptually, if you're coming into a draft trading away assets from a year ago, thinking that you weren't going to be in love with this year's class and the scouting opportunities and everything like that, it's somewhat counterintuitive to then go and say, I'm going to trade a bunch to try to get more picks again. So I think they kind of made their bed a year ago with how they were going to approach this year, and I'm sure there's players they like and all of that coming up on tomorrow's board, and they would like, maybe an extra 1 or 2, but when you're only coming in with 3, it's not a ton of capital to move around and build that stash of picks either. So certainly not surprised that they're going to be fairly light with this year's class.
I haven't talked to you since they had their pre-draft press conference to get your opinion, your take on it. What did you make of Pete Carroll and John Schneider when you guys got a chance to talk to them the other day?
Well, the Russell Wilson conversation was interesting because obviously they're not going to tell you everything too accurately that was going on behind the scenes. They just weren't going to do that. But it was clear that there was some ruffled feathers on both sides from the way that the offseason had gone, and they had some patchwork to do. And how much you want to take them at face value of them saying everything's good now, I think, is kind of in the eye of the beholder. It's probably not completely perfect, but it's also probably not completely ripped apart either. So the reality is that they still have a relationship together that they're going to have to forge through, and it seems like they've gotten to the point where they all understand that and are ready to be on the same page for next year. But if they miss the playoffs, if they don't make a deep playoff run, if the offense doesn't hit on all cylinders, or Russell doesn't get the directional capabilities of the offense that he wants to have, as much as his agent likes to talk, I'm sure we're back in a similar situation next offseason, but that's until then.
Hugh, how do we prevent it as Seahawks fans and an organization to not be going through with what the Packers are going through right now with Aaron Rodgers, and then ultimately what led to the divorce between the Patriots and Tom Brady? How do we prevent that from happening?
Well, I think you have to know the personality of the guy. You got to understand it's a little bit of a leverage situation where you say, okay, who needs who more? And the answer is they both need each other. And I think in this case, Russell Wilson, I can't fathom that he's ready to give up his career, where I could fathom Aaron Rodgers, he's 5 years older. Mm-hmm. He's worth $120 million, although obviously Russell's got more money than you could ever imagine as well. But I could see Aaron Rodgers saying, oh, really? You want to play in a game of Blink with me? Come on, right? I don't think Russell would do that. But the Seahawks better be aware of this. There's only, if you're a top 5 quarterback in the world, that dude's got a lot of freaking power. And you better understand his personality, because it's in your best interest that your quarterback is happy than disgruntled. And you could say, well, that's a prima donna effect. Screw him. Well, that's kind of old school thinking. That's to your peril. You know what that'd be like? That'd be like in going up in an intersection in a Nebraska, cornfield, and you've got the right of way, but you see a semi coming, and he ain't slowing down. Well, you could just keep going through the light. You say, well, I got the right of way. He's in the wrong. I'm in the right. Okay, well, but that's not very prudent for you.
Right.
So I think you better understand the personalities. And Russell is not the same Russell he was 8-9 years ago. He's having, in my opinion, a mid-career crisis. He's assessing. He's only won 1 championship. And he saw Tom Brady go to a new team and win another championship. And so I think you need to placate him a little bit. And because I think the message that he's saying, I don't like his methodology, but I think his message is right, which is let him be more part of the offense, okay, and protect him a little better. Well, getting Gabe Jackson was a huge step in that final regard, and then we'll see how they play it out. But I think that they need to let him throw, because I think it's what's best for the team.
Disappointed how he handled it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, he's been exemplary until this year. And the best way to handle that is not to take it to Dan Patrick or whatever on a radio show. The best way to handle that is to reach out to Pete Carroll and say, hey, look, I'd like to have a meeting. Tell me when's a good time where you have some time. Okay? And then just that initial overture tells Pete Carroll, okay, this is pretty serious. My quarterback has something to say. Then you walk into Pete Carroll's office, you close the door, and what I would advise Russell Wilson to do is the first thing you do is you just take some ownership yourself. Find something that you sincerely believe it's your fault. So you walk in and you say, look, a big part of the problems of the offense is me. And I'm working on that. I'm identifying that. I'm being introspective. I'm looking in the mirror. And I am going to do everything I can to work on my part of the solution. This is Russell Wilson talking to Pete Carroll in a closed door. He said, but I want to share with you my opinion and see whether or not you agree. I think for us to reach our highest potential, we need to get better up front. Like, I got to do my part, but I think we have to make some serious effort to get better up front because I think our football team will be better. Now, that's my opinion. What do you think? And then from there, you can just kind of, let the conversation go organically, but there's nothing wrong with looking at the coach. He's got enough juice and he's accomplished enough to look him in the eye and say, that's my feeling about where we are. Am I seeing something wrong? You tell me if I'm seeing something wrong. But all of that discussion should have happened in-house.
Hugh, do you think it's possible that discussion did happen and he felt like they weren't listening, so this is why he did this?
Yes.
I was thinking
and
the exact same thing.
Yeah, we talked about that on the radio this morning. Yeah, I don't know that didn't happen, and maybe he's feeling dissatisfied.
Like saying, hey, man, I've said this. I've gone.
For all we know,
multiple
he's done it
times.
10 times.
I've come multiple times, and you guys just don't. You're not listening to what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's absolutely. But I still, I just can't. I can't imagine where you say, okay, the next step is now that I got to take this public, and I've got to criticize the offensive linemen that are tasked with protecting me, and it's not just me. And from a selfish standpoint, I'm the quarterback. The sport of football needs the offensive line to feel compelled. You're always going to play better for something other than yourself. Like that offensive line needs to feel a connection.
Right.
Like he's my dude. It's I've got to protect him.
Curtis,
they can't have bitterness.
Yeah, Curtis, do you think he needs to? Carroll said no, but do you think he needs to mend fences inside that locker room,
Probably.
specifically with the line?
Yeah, I'm sure there's guys in there he's going to have to do some some pasting over hurt feelings with. I agree with you that I think this is about legacy for Russell. I think he's sensing his football mortality a little bit now for the first time in his career. The fact that he is a relatively old 9-year veteran. He's 33 years old. That's as old as Matthew Stafford is. Stafford's been in the league 3 years longer because he tried to go play baseball before turning to football full time. And so he is in a later stage of his career for somebody who's 9 years deep into their NFL career than some other guys are. And he's sitting there in that press box. He's watching that suite. He's watching Tom Brady win another Super Bowl. And he thinks he's on that level. He thinks he's on the Joe Montana level. Whether you agree with that or not, that's how Russell sees himself. And he feels like he's missing the chances to show that that's the guy he is. And that's why he's trying to leverage a little bit here and put his stamp on where the team goes and all of that. So I think that's how he got to this point. Now, I do think the biggest issue is that both sides were right. It's tough to tell Pete Carroll that the way he approaches going about football with all of his winning throughout the years in college and in the pros since becoming the head coach at USC, that is a fundamentally wrong way to approach football. It's just not going to work because all they do is win. And on the same flip side, Russell has a perfectly level ground to stand on saying, hey, we need to put a little bit more in my hands. You're paying me $35 million a year to be the guy. Let me be the guy. And so it's tough to find a way forward when both sides think they're right and have ground to stand on. And I think that's where you're kind of seeing them try to thread the needle with everything that's
Yeah, but you better let Russ cook or you're going to let Russ walk. Now, I agree with everything you said, Curtis, there. I look at Russell, and when he said the words legacy, and he says, my legacy, there's nobody on the Seattle Seahawks that wants to hear Russell Wilson saying, well, hey, my legacy is impacted here. he would have been much better served to say, look, we've got a talented team. Pete Carroll, John Schneider, they've assembled a ton of talent, guys going to the Hall of Fame, whatever. We have a vision about what our potential is. And our potential is that we can win multiple Super Bowls through this era. And so it's our legacy.
Yeah, that's what he should have said.
He should have never said the words "my legacy."
Are they walking up right now, Kev? Let's go to the VMAC. Addressing the media is Pete Carroll and John Schneider as we round up day 2 of the NFL.
Thanks, John. Really appreciate that.
Oh, and it's on. And we got the Legos.
Hot mic.
That's pretty funny.
What kind of player the Seahawks are getting?
Yeah, I would say in a really unique year, Jason Barnes did a great job, as well as all of our scouts, but did a great job with the 6 games these guys played and really getting to know Dwayne and really knowing the person, the competitor, and who he is, family makeup, everything, and. Yeah, so overall, just, extremely explosive, 5'9", 190 something, 4'3", whatever, 6 to 9, ran a 10.5, 100 meters in high school, 21.5, 200 meters, just really explosive guy, can throttle his speed, tough. We're getting a guy that could play a number of different positions, and is a kickoff returner. Could be a gunner. There's a really cool shot of him as a gunner against Central Michigan, where he just throttles somebody. And we're getting a guy that's competitive, hungry, intense. He's got some dog to him, and I think you guys already spoke with him, right?
Joe Fan.
John, I think with just 3 picks, everyone was kind of expecting you guys to try to move back and get some more ammo. Was that a situation where the opportunity to present itself, or the risk of maybe losing your guy wasn't worth it?
You know what? It was a combination of both, actually. We thought we were close, and then we lost something right at the end. And so, we were literally like maybe 5 minutes away or something. So, it just kind of fell apart, and we just moved forward, and we were excited to just take our guy. I know you guys get tired of saying like the best available player and all that, but he was the guy.
Corbin.
Hey, Pete. So I look back at Dwayne's career. He was starting as a corner when he first got there. He was a running back at the high school level. John mentioned the versatility he brings to the table. How much of the fact that he played extensive snaps at corner pique your guys' interest picking him this early in the draft?
Yeah, it makes him a unique player coming in at the position. Whenever think about the staff that had to make it, present this to him. We got problems on defense. We need some help. We think you could be a cornerback. How many wide receivers do get asked that question? So the versatility, the all-around athlete that he is, the person that he is, he's really smart and bright and wide open and team-oriented and all of that. I think it just showed the variety and the spectrum of this guy's ability. We love the explosiveness part of it, but you can also see there's a few clips in here, and you can see when he was playing defense, he was physical. He went after guys, which we love about what he brings to the wide receiver position, because our guys are called on to block a lot in our offense, and they have it's a big part of the game, and that was one of the additional elements that just added to why we like Dwayne so much. So we're really fired up about it.
Bob.
Dwayne seems to have an awful lot. Last year, he got an awful lot of yards after the catch and all of that. Is that something that I'm sure an attribute you guys would always like anyway, but with maybe the changes you might make in the offense with Shane, is that something that maybe was a little bit more of an emphasis or a priority in looking at guys this year?
Yeah, it is part of it. Really, it's the whole makeup of this player in particular, but we want guys that are versatile. We like to play with good rhythm and tempo. We'd like to keep the guys out there on the field, so they have to be versatile and able to do all of those things. He definitely is a guy, as you can tell from just the highlights that you probably have seen, that we can hand him the football, we can flip it to him, him. We can do things with him behind the line of scrimmage. He's run very effectively on reverses and stuff like that. So, and the returns show that as well. So, all of that is we were looking for a receiver that would have all of that kind of versatility, and he was really an exciting one to get.
Michael Sean.
Hey, what's up, guys? Dwayne described himself as a dog, and John, you just used that same word. What do you guys see in him to use that particular adjective?
Well, I think to reiterate, basically what Pete just said. I mean, for a staff to go to a guy and say, hey, a guy that's supposed to be, kind of a track athlete, right? The 100-meter sprinter and 200-meter sprinter. I think he was like a 23-something foot long jumper. For that guy, for a guy like that, usually you hear the term track guy and all that. For a staff to go to a guy and ask him to go play some defense and, go play against Michigan State and, just go compete. You could see him just flying up and run support, throwing his body around. He's just a competitor. He's overcome a lot. He's just a great guy. And like I said, Jason did a great job. Jason Barnes of really getting to know the person and the competitor, and we really emphasized that. When you have all these picks, I mean, you got to be able to sort all this stuff out. So no, we just felt like we really were focused on the person, and you could tell he's got. I don't want to compare him to people, but so I guess I won't. But he's got some really cool attributes.
Come on, John, you can tell us. What name were you going to drop right there? All right, thanks, you guys.
Yeah.
Curtis?
Yeah, John, he said that he lined up a lot at X the last year at Western Michigan there. How do you kind of see him fitting into this offense with you, and then on, with his kind of mold between the slot and outside, and then on top of that, what kind of led to his big breakout season? I mean, it seemed like 6 great games, he went kind of wild for them. What did you see that kind of allowed him to make the jump into that player?
Well, I would say the first part of it, really, the coaches, will figure out. But when he had some really good interviews with us, he had a great interview with Nate and Kerry. The way he described the way he learns is, learning all the different positions and figuring out what everybody else is doing, and then he can just go play, and that frees him up. So, the coaches will figure out where he can play. But the cool thing about this guy is he's shown that he can play all over the place. And again, you get the versatility as a kick returner and as a gunner if the coaches deem appropriate. But with this year, I think it's pretty cool to see a guy, in that conference having only 6 games, be hyper focused the way he was, and to compete at the level he did. And then Jim Nagy and his staff obviously invited him down to the Senior Bowl, and that's really where you could see him. I don't want to say separate himself, but be able to kind of, show exactly what he could do and all the different tools, the different skill sets he had, whether as a route runner and a receiver and a competitor going down there to the Senior Bowl. Sorry,
Jen.
He talked to us about the injury that he had and called it the best and the worst thing that had happened, because you don't wish for an injury, but he said he learned a lot from it. How did he characterize that? And John, I guess this goes to you, in the conversations that you guys had with him.
Just his focus, just being able to concentrate on some personal things that he needed to work through, and then being able to focus on how important football was to him and the future, that he envisioned for himself. Sorry.
Brady.
Hi, John. How much does, he's 24 years old, how much, if at all, does his age factor into the scouting equation for you guys?
It's part of our equation, but you're not talking about a guy that has a ton of tread, a ton of wear on him. So, he's a guy that's still fresh and trains hard, and he's just a unique athlete. Those guys, there's certain guys that can just run all day. There were a number of them in this draft. You guys saw a bunch of them go pretty quick, right in that area in the second round. With Tutu going right after us, and Marshall and some guys like that. Rondell Moore, those guys can just run all day. And, Rogers from Clemson. There's a whole bunch of those guys in this draft, and he trains hard and he can run all day.
Johnny, one of the things I would just add to, as we're kind of getting a feel for who he is, and you guys are getting a feel for it also, there were a number of smaller receivers, fast, speedy guys in this draft, but we saw him as 5'9" something, but he was 190 something too, and he looks physical, plays strong, plays a dynamic style with the ball in his hands and all that. I think that was one of the attributes I know that John liked early on when he first picked him up, and it's been really obvious that he's got a uniqueness to him in that regard that we'll be able to hopefully use in a number of ways.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, Pete and I, and our whole staff, we really been focused on him for a while, especially after the Senior Bowl.
Joe?
I'm curious how much it goes into consideration, obviously liking the player, but maybe also considering how this player complements what you already have on the roster. In this case, specifically, how he complements, DK and Tyler, or if that doesn't even factor into the equation, we just love the player and we'll make it work. Regardless of what else might be on the roster.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. The dynamics of his speed, the speed factor, the track background, that's attractive. We want to make sure that our guys are big threats. All our guys run 4.3s, and Tyler and DK both run low 4.3s, and so to have another element in there with that kind of speed concerns that you provide for the opponent. That's part of this thinking, but we're looking for well-rounded guys that fit and can complement too. We'll have the ability to. Like DK can move all over the place now. He's learned enough in his couple of years to do that. We use Tyler in and out of the slot, and we would like that versatility from any of the guys that come on the field. So, when Dwayne gets his shot, we'll use all of that hopefully, and then mix and match and kind of hide it and disguise it as we want to, and we'll see how that works. But it is all part of it, that the guys have elements that do complement, and of course, you can't replace the speed, and so then we kind of started there.
Tim?
John, you've mentioned the Senior Bowl a couple of times. How significant does that become in the evaluation of guys who might be coming from smaller conferences where sometimes they're just raw talent can outplay what they're competing against on the field?
I don't think it's become any more important. It always has been very important for small school guys. The one thing that Jim Nagy's done a really good job of is because he's kind of an underdog guy. He loves the underdog, so he's always going to be inviting and looking for those small school guys to come in and compete with the bigger schools, and Dwayne fits in that category. So over the years, there's been a number of games that have disappeared, but the Senior Bowl has always been a very, very strong game, great evaluation platform for us.
Greg?
Guys, how does Shane Waldron's system, the new passing game, and how you want to get the ball out relate to Eskridge and fit his game?
Yeah, I think it. I'll try to say it better so I didn't make the point last time. We want real versatile guys. We want guys that can do everything because our guys do have to block. We use them in splits and motions and all kinds of positions more than we have, maybe more emphasis than we have in the past. And that calls for these guys to be able to do a numbers of things. And that means they've got to recognize fronts and who's who, linebackers and DBs and all that kind of stuff as they carry out their assignments. In particular, I think you'll see in time as you guys, get a chance to see Dwayne, you're going to see that he can do all of that. He's a physical kid, and he'll be able to be a well-rounded player. If you look back and what they have built through the Rams system, with Cooper Kupp and Robert, they have had guys on the field that stay out there because they can do a little bit of everything, and so we like that kind of versatility. And so I think in the first receiver that we've chosen, with our new offensive coordinator, I think that's a little bit of a statement in that regard. That's something we like and something we're looking for.
So when you see 5'9", you think, well, probably slot, but you're emphasizing he's not just a slot. He's obviously.
I don't see it that way at all. We see him as a deep threat. I mean, you saw him. He can catch the ball way down the field. He's got great downfield speed. He's got great finishing speed too. So the kind of track background he has, you can see the acceleration stay with him as he moves, and he's going to be a a guy that can stretch the field for us. So we won't just restrict him to being an inside player. We'll move him around.
Art?
You answered that a little bit, Pete, but I was just wondering about, is it with his skill set, I mean, some people call it a gadget player, but do you see him as a third receiver being on the field a lot more than third receivers you've had in the past?
I don't know that it's going to take on any more numbers, and I don't want to try to throw around those thoughts right now, if you don't mind, because nobody knows what we're doing right now. So we'll unveil that later. But he has a skill set that, I mean, you saw him play outside. Like he said, he's played 80% of the time. He played X receiver. He's out of the box and out there in one-on-one situations quite a bit. And he certainly can do that. And he certainly can be an inside receiver that can get across the field. And we've seen all of that. There'll be a learning curve for him in our offense. We do more things than they did. And that schematically, he'll have a chance to learn, and we'll learn more about him. That's what John said. Our coaches need to get him on the field. We need to start working with him. We need to see what he adapts to well and what comes easy to him. As always with young players, we want to do the things that they do well early so that they can find success and have confidence in what we're asking of them, and then we'll expand from there. So that's kind of how we will always approach that with any player at his position, and it certainly pertains here.
Curtis?
Yeah, Pete, the second half of last season, it seemed like you guys were lacking a solid third option in the passing game. Whether it was David not being there as much, Greg being hurt, all of that. How much did that kind of put a highlight on needing somebody like this to kind of bolster the group that you had?
Shane has talked since we first started talking about, schematically how we're going about it, philosophically how we're going about the offense, about having three legitimate threats, in passing situations, so a defense can't lock you down. And it was one of the reasons that Gerald was such a big get for us, was such a great acquisition for us in the offseason to help us. But we always want to have three guys out there that they've got to work with and contend with, so they just can't double guys up and take them out of the offense. So I will find out, how well Dwayne fits in that regard, but we're counting on him being a factor. And and our other guys too. This is going to be a great, like as I said a couple days ago, it's going to be a wide open competition this camp for guys to show where they fit. And we're waiting to allow that emergence to occur, and excited to see the competition bring that out. But we want the diversity, certainly.
And one more quick one. Just, you guys signed Robert Kemdiche yesterday. What kind of were you looking at there, and what does he bring to you, and what were you thinking with the move?
Yeah, you go. Okay. Well, we're always looking to get better, and we're always looking to find guys. And John, brought Robert's name up, and we remembered him from the draft from before. Lost track of him a little bit because he'd been banged up and missed a year, but. Man, he came in here and worked out, and he just blew us away. And so we're thrilled that he's going to join us and add to the competition, bring what he brings. This was a very dynamic football player a few years back when he came out. He's only 26 years old. He's ready to go. Really, really excited about the opportunity coming here and being with our guys and all that. And so we'll see how this fits in. He's got some things that he can do that look a little bit different than some other guys. Exactly what we're always looking for, the uniqueness that a guy can add. And we think Robert might be able to do a real nice job playing the three technique and moving around in passing situations for us. He's an inside player, though, primarily.
Pete Carroll. Jockey, do you think when you use the word dog like they use, do you think that's what you use? Well, you and I got to know.
I mean, I have a hard time with that not being an adjective, I'll be honest. There can be a verb of dog. He's dogging, like it, yes. But as an adjective, it's a tough one.
Did I make my case?
Well, I was kind of just tongue in cheek.
I thought it was a fun job.
Well, when he said the adjective, I'm like, that was kind of an off. That was kind of like an off-air thing.
But the way that you use
emphasis on the word off. But you brought it on.
It was fun.
Okay. If I said he's a slacker, Is slacker a noun in that regard? Or I mean, it's describing him in an adjective-like way. If you, I'll grant you that.
But he is a slacker. He is a. That's a noun. That is what he is.
Dog just has there's this whole.
That's the new term. All the kids I know, all the kids use it. He's a dog. You got a dog, right? And I understand exactly what
is it
a dog is.
Is it all DAW?
No, I don't think that.
It could be.
Well, that's a great question. I would say it's DAWG.
It does seem a little more AWE.
Yeah, not DOG.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, I do love a good dog.
Second day of the round.
You guys both have dogs.
We do.
Hugh has a dog. Hugh has like a football-sized dog.
Like a
Hugh got a dog. Hugh got a dog that he was able to actually throw to his son.
I don't have a cat. Like I have a dog that you take out. Like when you see the commercials for like Filson and REI.
Yeah,
the dog is a man's best friend. He camps with you, fetches the ball.
Yeah. Hugh has a dog more that you put in like a purse and you carry.
Yeah, exactly. Like Clueless.
For 6 months in the damn pandemic, my wife was on the internet and she would just turn her computer and show me these French bulldogs. Right? And I said no. For 6 months I said no. I said, you get a dog like that, I will hate it forever. I will kick it. And I told her that virtually every day. And so I see that I'm not the man.
Now let's all be like the dog.
She just brought it. So now, guess what?
It's a good
we have a puggle and a Frenchie. I grew up with a lab, and now, yeah, they're just. But
Do you
know
have
what?
the Louis Vuitton bag you carry?
Yeah.
Let me ask you. Tell me the truth. Tell us the truth. Have you ever taken the dog on the plane in those little bags? in those little carrier bags.
Not nice. I thought you guys were nice guys.
All right.
Clarification,
Friday
Hugh
night.
does not actually kick his dogs, folks, so please stop actually texting us.
All right, so day 3 coming up tomorrow. Starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. 9 to 11:30, Ian and Rob Ring. And we've got we got the spring game. The home of the Huskies, 11:30 to 2:30 from Husky Stadium. But during that time, we've got Slickhawk is on the.
You'll be able to watch him on all of our social channels:
YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and then 2:30 to 4 o'clock. Chuck and Curtis will wrap it up. It's a busy day tomorrow.
It's going to be a party, man. We're in multiple places. We don't let a little thing like Facebook get in the way of that doing what we're doing. We cover that.
If you're in the Ballard area, you want to check out a baseball team, Bobo's Vikings. Action tomorrow at 11 a.m. Just say,
what's the rum on there? Favorite?
Loading around the hood. Double.
Like a bunch of dogs.
Like a bunch of dogs.
The key in Little League Baseball, aggressive baseball.
Yep.
Make those
yeah.
Make those
I'm not going to be too aggressive.
No, real aggressive.
I don't want to take a.
You break the other team's spirit. You make them commit errors, and you run when you never think you should run, and you make them get you out, and they won't. They'll boot it, and they'll get frustrated. They're angry, and they'll throw their mitts on the ground, and then you have it.
Quit.
Yeah.
All right, on that, that's Hugh Miller. For Kevin Shockey,
Run.
Curtis Crabtree, Ian Furness, Chuck Powell, Matt Mikolas. I feel like I'm in Jackson Phelps earlier. Dave Optimola. I'm Jason Puckett. We appreciate you being with us. It's always a labor of love. It's fun. We'll be back at it tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock right here on Sports Radio 950 KJR.